We are live, baby. We are live. We are live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Rumble. And in 1 second, we will be live on Rockfin as well. Y'all let me know if you can hear me okay, you can see me okay. Y'all know it must be Christmas time because your boy is on time today. I can't believe it. My baby's actually sleeping. He slept well last night too. I couldn't believe that either. It's Mimosa Monday, baby. But if YouTube asks, y'all know the deal. It's just orange juice in here. It's just orange juice. Don't ask no questions. We have a very, very special Mimosa Monday today. Today we'll be having a guest, our very first ever Mimosa Monday guest. This is actually a big deal, y'all. Y'all know my Mimosa Mondays. This is like my therapy. This is like y'all's therapy. It's a very intimate setting where we talk about a lot of intimate stuff. So I've always been on the fence about whether or not I would actually bring on a guest for Mimosa Monday. But because we're entering it, we're like coming on to a new year. You know what I'm saying? Supposed to be trying new things. And so I said, you know what? I want to bring in some other people to have conversations that we like to have during Mimosa Monday, whether it be about politics, whether it be about life stuff, whether it be about pop culture, you know, the music industry, sports. So my goal going forward is to try at least once or twice a month to bring in somebody from that doesn't only talk about politics, but really talks about anything and everything. For example, Taylor, she used to interview celebrities, but she just so happens to also be in politics. That's what I plan on doing going forward. And so I wanted to try the format out because it's probably going to be the last Mimosa Monday of the year, because the last AMA I'm going to do is actually on my birthday coming up on the 27th. So you look out for that. So without any further ado, people, I want to introduce you guys to Taylor Ferber. What is going on, Taylor? How you doing?
Hi, Niko. Can you hear me okay? Test. Mic check.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Probably a me thing. It's definitely probably a me thing. Say something so I can make sure I can hear you.
Niko, do you copy?
Perfect. I'm copying. What's going on? How you doing?
Niko, I'm 3 minutes fashionably late. Lucky number 3. You know, I just want to give your audience, you know.
Hey, I was just actually telling them it must be Christmas. I usually don't start on time. I'm usually about I schedule it at a time. I'm usually about 10 minutes late because there's like a 10-minute. I gotta put my baby down so he stops like screaming at the top of his lungs. Period. That I gotta give myself. So they actually got a Christmas present because I wasn't even expecting to be on time, but he's sleeping, so we're all good.
Technically, we're early.
Yeah, basically. For Brazilians, we're definitely early. If in Brazilian time, we're definitely early. Ain't nothing start on time here, so I had to get used to that.
You have your family, children. I don't know this. I suppose this is my excuse, like getting ready for the moment. I don't know what my excuse is other than getting all. I have my coffee. I'm repping on all fronts.
Oh man, you ready? Yeah, it's early too. It's early for you because you're in Central Time, so it's like you double fisting right now with coffee.
No, exactly. And I know I wasn't gonna show up empty-handed, so I have my special pink, you know.
Man, you got the.
Am I allowed to pour on camera?
Is it because I told you? Yeah, we're on camera. Oh yeah, yeah.
Am I allowed to pour on here though?
Hell yeah! It's just juice.
It's just
juice, YouTube. Of course you can pour on camera. You can pour your juice on camera.
Cheers, Niko. You and I have had I'm so glad we reconnected because first of all, you're getting me to live on the edge because I may look like Malibu Barbie, but I have like a glass of wine once a week and I'm hurting for 3 days. So this is a big deal for me, Mimosa.
Oof.
I'm really
like you got some miles on there, huh? You got some drinking miles, huh? Yeah, that happened to me too. I used to not drink. You know, I didn't drink my first beer until I was 23 years old. That's when I first tasted alcohol. I promise you. And I was like, man, I don't know what people talking about this hangovers. I never got any of that until May. So I went to UNC. That was wild. Then maybe 2-3 years after living in Miami is when I got like my first real hangover. And I was like, yo, what the hell is this? Why do I feel like this? All I did last night was drink until 5 a.m.
All I did was drink.
Again, it's the same old. And it turns out like drinking is like reverse cardio, right? Like the more you run, the better your cardio gets. Yeah, drink is the opposite of that. The more you drink, the worse
no, exactly
recovery is. So yeah, my drinking recovery is like my athletic recovery after a game now. It slows down. And I used to think it was age, but my brother, he started drinking way before me. So he don't recover well. Because he went hard. He was in the Navy and he used to party a lot before that. And like while he was in the Navy, he traveled a lot. So he was and he lived in Miami for about 3 years on top of that. So about 27, he was done. He was like, yeah, man, I'm good on the beer. I have 2 beers and I'm good.
Literally, that's me. I'm like, I had a wine a year ago, so we're good, right? So all that to say, this is to us reconnecting, and it's been so much fun to reconnect with you. I had such a blast with you on my show, and we've been like having really fun conversations off camera and afterwards behind subsequently on text. And the spirit of my show was finding common ground and hopping on this today. I was like, it's the holiday season. We'll bring holiday cheer. My whole motto is like boobs out, brain out. And I feel like we can all agree, like I have the boobs, you got biceps. Talk about that's something everybody can agree on, right?
They used to be bigger, but I had to like, people started getting like scared whenever, because my personality doesn't necessarily match my body type, I guess, because I look like everybody here thinks I play like soccer professionally or basketball professionally.
Can we see a little like
it's small right now. Look, it's like
small right now.
Because I had to slim down because everybody kept looking at me like I was crazy. Like people get like, so in Rio, it's a funny story. Everybody tells you, your first time coming to Rio, you have to be careful. Kind of like every foreign country, but Rio, there's only a couple of places where tourists go. So it's like Ipanema, Copacabana, maybe Centro do Rio, where like the famous like favelas. You ever seen that music video "Beautiful" with Pharrell and Snoop Dogg?
Of course.
So the steps, that area, that's that. So the thing is, I learned really quickly when I moved here that all rules don't apply to everybody, because people cross the street when I was walking by. Like they cross the street, like they like Valeu, which is like basically what's good, but then they like walk across. I was like, why are people walking across the street whenever I walk by? That's kind of weird. And then my wife told me, she was like, well, you're kind of big and nobody wants to take a chance that I was like, everybody told me I'm supposed to be careful when I got here. She was like, yeah, that really doesn't really apply to like you, to big black people. It applies to tourists that look like a lick. That's what they're talking about.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
You're 6'1". Okay, so see, this is where the internet doesn't do us justice, because in real life, you're 6'1" black guy. I'm 5'1" blonde white chick.
What?
So that
I thought you like 5'8".
Thought it was 5'8". I get that often. I think it's the big D energy, maybe.
It must be.
That's. But
and
I'm just
angles.
saying,
all about angles.
It's all about angles.
You can't really check. I don't take like full body pictures like that. So like no one ever sees my legs.
Niko, you got to give the people, that's my second motto. You got to give the people what they want. You got to show the legs and the biceps with the brains, Yeah,
every now and then I'll post I'll post a gym picture episode because a lot of people follow me on Instagram, like following my gym progress and stuff like that. And every now and then I'll post something, but I don't really think about it. I guess because when you just been doing something for so long, you just don't think about it. And then people always see me whenever I've gone to events and conferences and things like that for politics. People are like, hold on, are you Niko? I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, you're way taller than I thought you would be. I'm like, do I look tall? Or like, do I look short? I don't even know how to explain that. How do you just look short on camera? But that's
why it's so crazy. It is such an energy thing. But I'm just saying, I think for men and women, like the physicality of you and that presence, like when there's like a good looking someone who has that like stature and I'm listening. Like
it's true.
If it's a Ryan Reynolds, if it's a David, like I'm listening.
It's a psychological thing. It's a
Yes.
psychological thing. It's you see, you know the rule about the presidents, right? They always say like you got to be at least 6 foot tall to be the president, at minimum,
What?
because I think there's only been maybe
Explain
one or two.
Zelensky. Explain Zelensky, Nico.
Well,
Explain.
no, no,
Isn't
no.
he a little
President of the
guy?
United States. It's different over in Ukraine but which is kind of actually weird because I think they're actually on average taller in Ukraine and Russia, but he in the U.S. specifically, and I'm almost 100% positive it has to do with the it's like how people perceive height and how you carry yourself when you walk
Exactly.
into a room and you're one of
Exactly.
the tallest people there. Or if you're really fit, like you're one of the most fit people there, and you just carry yourself differently. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's you bring a different type of energy with you. Like kind of how almost basketball players, everybody kind of like knows. I know the difference between if you're just a tall guy who played basketball or if you're like a basketball player and you're tall, because just the way you walk into a room, because you just know like there's like 10 people maybe in a 30 or 40-mile radius who can even guard me right now, let alone like I'm gonna be the tallest person in every room I'm in. And it's just, or you're one of the only people in the world who can do what you do
Yeah.
because of your height and your athleticism. So it's like football players don't really have that energy though. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you know that, like that's a whole thing. Football players are kind of like lame. Like
Yeah. No,
professional football players,
it's true.
they're mostly. Oh yeah, you
Well, as
graduated
women,
from
okay,
college.
so I'm talking like, okay, we objectify in a different way. This is like where the whole like male gaze thing, but right. So for us, it's like football players can be anything from like really tight to these just like big like
True.
linebackers coming in, right? With baseball, it's all about like the bubble butt. Let's be real. Like for us, like we're looking. I'm just being honest.
It's true. They are
Mimosa.
supposed to have it. It's supposed to be a thing because of the type of train that they got. I don't know why. I used to play baseball. I got the bubble butt too. So it's a thing.
Me too. Hashtag me too. But with Niko, what is your right? So like my motto is boobs out, brain out. Trump is America first. What's the Niko House motto?
My motto has generally been find your balance, because that was something that my entire life I actually struggled to find, because I just do everything kind of over the top. Like that's just kind of like, hell, I would say even probably to this day I still do everything over the top. But it's I tried to, like, every time, for example, if I would have like if I take an L in my life for some reason, maybe I had just broke up with my girlfriend, or maybe I had an issue with school or work or friends or whatever, or with family, I would just like start learning something new. So like I would learn a new language, I would learn a new skill, and I would just overdo it so I wouldn't have to think about what I was dealing with at the time. And although, I mean, it was useful in the long run, but eventually you kind of go through a burnout period, and eventually you come crashing down because you never really deal with anything that was bothering, that drove me to, for example, like to move to Brazil. Like, yeah, Brazil like was a choice, but I was planning on leaving the country regardless, because it was just too much going on. I needed the break from just everything that came with me living there, being the oldest sibling, being the oldest cousin, both my grandparents passing away within a year of each other was a big deal. And so whenever I moved, it was actually so that I could find my balance, because I was doing so much nonstop. And I realized I wasn't able to take time to sit back and think or appreciate anything. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't appreciate, I couldn't be mad, I couldn't be upset, I couldn't be sad, I couldn't be anything. It was just like next day, next day, next day, you know. And so for a long time, my motto has always been find your balance. Cause I just feel like as humans, when we are able to finally achieve our balance, that's probably when we are at our like peaks when it comes to our work life, our family life, personal stuff. Being able to, like, kind of how we talked the other day, how you say now, you know, even though you're a person that likes to be right. I'm the same way, but lately, probably over the last like 8 years, I've been more like, I want to learn more. I don't really care if I'm right. But I was like, because I'm a Capricorn. So being a Capricorn, my whole life has been being right. 9 out of 10 times, to be honest with you. In fact, I remember one time me and one of my family members was arguing, and he was like, man, you just want to be right all the time. I said, you know what? How about this? How about you tell me when I was wrong? How about you fucking tell me that?
Literally. No, I'm waiting. I have my notes.
Yeah, because you get mad because I'm right.
Yeah, you said you like to be right, and I'm thinking to myself, like, it's not even that I like to; it's just in my blood. Like, I didn't choose to slave it, just wait. I'm just kidding, but I love that, Niko, and I love what you said about sort of like kind of the idea of like going big or go home. And it's funny you say, we're gonna get deep for a second on Mimosa Monday, semi deep.
Always.
But I have been grappling with this a lot lately because it's sort of that idea, and I'm sure you're the same way, right? Like, you're obviously very talented and driven and ambitious. And I will stop at nothing. Like, I am such a perfectionist, and I'm always in the most competition with myself. And I've been having this conversation both at my inner dialogue and with others lately of that's sort of the blessing and the curse of very successful people, because it's like, look at Tom Brady, right? It's like, we don't know when to stop. And it's almost this insatiable, like,
you're 100% right. Time is a perfect example.
That in your, right? It's almost like, do you need that in your sort of, like, you have to have that bone in your body. So it's interesting that you say balance, because I'm like, I know such thing. Like, what does that mean? What? Like, I need a Webster's dictionary. Like, it does not translate. So
it didn't translate for me either, because I'm like, why would I be like, I'm just gonna go hard. I can take it. Because that was the other thing too. Back in the day, especially as you know, we're molding ourselves and finding our career and our path. Like, for me, I could always handle more. Like, I can handle everything. That's how I was. And you know, I didn't realize the fatigue was putting me through. Because I had just grown so accustomed to always doing more. Like, that was just like, my mom made a comment about my son the other day, which she had never actually said ever before, which was kind of interesting. I'm sure she's always thought it, but my mom is not really communicative when it comes to how she feels about me. So, or things that I've done. She'll say she's proud of me every now and then, but she's not communicative. So I sent her a picture or video of like my son walking. And my son started walking, like, making steps probably at 7.5 weeks, and started walking like for real like 8 weeks. Like, it was pretty insane. And so she's like, oh, look, he's like an overachiever doing the most just like his dad. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. You never said that before. Like, she never said
wow.
That. Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. I'm like, what? You've never said that. Like, what? She's like, I've never said what? Like, you never called me an overachiever. I mean, it's always been assumed because I overachieve, like, the results kind of speak for themselves. But like, even in school, my version of overachieving was an expectation for her. So I never ever heard her say the words, you're overachieving. It's like, okay, yeah, you got straight A's next semester. No. You know what I'm saying? So
it like was an A-. Like, why the minus though?
Oh man, we had a whole fight one time. I mean, one of our biggest blow-ups is because I got a B. I got a 90 in my class. And my brother on a progress report. It wasn't even a report card. It was a progress report. And it was like a AP class or some shit like that. Like my US AP Europe. That's what it was. AP Europe. And my brother got a C. He got an 80 on the progress report. And my mom is going crazy on me. And I'm going crazy. I'm like, what the fuck? Why aren't you yelling at him? He got an 80. Because I'm thinking to myself, I know my brother's as smart as I am. So you just let him bullshit and you on my ass. And of course, this is the crazy part. While this is going on, right? And we're going hard. This is probably an 1.5 2 hour fight. My brother's in the other room, pissed as shit. Doesn't even tell me until like we're already 30 or something like that. After he had already gone to therapy. And was like, bro, I was in there pissed as hell. Because I'm like, the fuck you think you think I'm dumb? Like, you just okay with this 80? And I'm like, bro, why the fuck didn't you come there and say something? He's like, because for what? She already had that expectation of me, so why would I even bring that up? So I'm like, yo, this is crazy that you over here. And so then he's starting arguments with me for no reason because he's mad about the way people are treating us at that time. Like, oh, Niko's supposed to be perfect, and like if whatever Quentin does is just, it's ancillary, it's supplementary, whatever. So that was a whole thing. But as I got older, I started noticing, like I said, I started noticing the burnout. I started noticing like the more I lacked balance, the more I felt like I was not failing, but not doing as well as I could in the things that I love to do. Like, which was weird because it was almost like a prolonged impact. You get what I'm saying? Like when I was young, it was great. As I got older, because we have more responsibilities as we get older, right?
Yep.
So how can you balance, be that guy, that person, that woman that you were when you were 18, 19, when you had people helping you out with your responsibilities? It's not the same. You can't, it can't be maintained.
And different priorities, right? Of course. And we evolve. And, it's funny because there's definitely, you say with your mom and that experience, like, I feel like I don't have kids yet, but you hear that story time and time again, where it's like suddenly it's like the grandchild and grandparent dynamic is so different. And suddenly you're like,
it's so true, bro.
But also, we joked about this off camera, how your son is a prodigy, like future Stephen Hawking stands wheelchair. Okay. So like,
yeah, probably.
Like, probably. So how could you not?
He's gonna be him, but between him and my nephew's the same way. My nephew's already, so my brother's about 6'1.5", almost 6'2".
Yeah.
But my nephew grew probably because he had food to eat. We were kind of poor growing up, so we didn't eat the way we should have. He eats all the time, but he plays soccer, and like he just decided he's like just naturally gifted at everything, which kind of pisses all of us off because he's so lazy. He's like the laziest gifted person ever. Yeah, and he's beautiful. He's just handsome. Yeah. He's like this. He has like blonde, curly hair. Like it's ridiculous. We like, but he has like my brother's eyes, yeah, he's like this prodigy, basically. My brother walked in on him one day. It was like he was like 6 or 7 years old. These, when kids are around their parents, they have a different persona than when they're by themselves with their other friends. My brother drops him off at school one day. He's like, bye, Dad, doing all the cute little kid shit. But my brother forgot to give him his lunch. So he walks in like, yo, Cam, you forgot your lunch. This motherfucker is in here. He got a line of people waiting to dap him up. Got like 3 or 4 girls waiting to give him a hug. Like, my brother's like, come on. Oh, hey. Like his whole demeanor switched up. Like
demeanor,
bro, it was crazy. I mean, I've witnessed it with my own kids. So I'm like, yeah, bro, it's crazy. He said, bro, I never seen it like that. And it's like he already had become aware of like his uniqueness very early on, and it's actually been as cool as it is when it comes to his confidence. It's a problem when it comes to like trying to push him to do something. So he took an L once in soccer, after being probably the most talented person on his team, and the team had always done pretty well because of him, but this kid busted his ass. And he knew in his heart and soul, it was because he just worked harder than him. And it made him so mad that he just went into the lab. This was, he was about 8 or 9 years old. He just went into the lab for a whole 6 months. My brother said he's never seen him work this hard in his life at anything. And he comes back the next season and they go to the damn championship. And my nephew scores 14 goals in 9 games or some shit like that, and has like just as many assists. And my brother's team, because he's a coach, is mostly girls. It's like the starting lineup is mostly girls and like 3 or 4 boys. And my nephew, it's like one of them is my nephew. Yeah, it's insane. And he's like, but the difference was he finally got beat. He finally, like it was the first time he realized, damn, you can't just be naturally good at shit and just have things work out for you. I thought that's how it worked. Right.
Speaking of Tom Brady, right? The infamous chip on his shoulder from being, what was he, like 8th? Like
some crazy, like 7th or 8th round pick. Yeah, so 7th or 8th round pick.
27th round pick. No, but
not even a starter, really. He didn't even start like that at Michigan State. Like the fact that he got drafted was a miracle, actually.
Yeah. So it works. There's something to it.
Yeah,
I'm just
which is so crazy when you think about it. I mean, could you imagine being that talented and then because like obviously he knew how talented he was, so it's like, and you know how much politics plays into sports, so there had to be some huge background especially now, but there had to be some huge background story to how he didn't get to start, and then but there wasn't an ability for him to like leave for whatever reason, like there wasn't a market for him to leave, and so. Imagine being like that talented for 3 or 4 years and you don't really get to show anybody. In a moment, like he's like, that's okay. I'm gonna get my chance. I'm gonna get my chance.
Like,
I'm gonna get my chance.
I don't think people realize, because, and I explore this on my show all the time, but we are in such an age. I mean, we kind of brushed on this on the OnlyFans viral story, but with 1,000 men in a day, but we are in such an age of instant gratification, obviously. And I don't think people realize, I think that is such a lost art is that grit. And because it's like the participation trophy era, that's all such nonsense, you know? And honestly, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, what do you make of Gen Z, Niko? Because I feel like I give them a bad rap for being lazy, entitled. Shall I go on? No, just kidding.
Man, look, they're interesting. Gen Z is a very interesting group. Shout out to Cynthia Dream. What's going on, Mad Crab? What's going on? Merry Christmas Eve. Aha, Eve.
I'm honored, by the way, to be, not to do the weave like Trump, but I'm honored to be joining you on this Mimosa Monday, which is the last of the year.
The last of the year.
The last of the year. I'm actually going to take a picture of us and share it on my, there we go, share it with my people.
But what was the last question you asked me? What was the last question?
Gen Z.
Oh yeah, Gen Z. So Gen Z is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a group of kids that has the most potential because of all the access they have to information, all the access they have to retrospect, right? It's one thing to have your own, it's to have to learn from your own experiences because you don't have access to the past, but they have access to all the mistakes and all the tools that everyone has had and made over the last however many 50 years to be successful. The problem is they have too many options. And I feel like sometimes they get so inundated with other people's talent that they sell themselves short oftentimes. So they just don't even try. I feel like that happens very often.
I feel like thought of it like that.
Because I've seen it happen with adults. I've seen it happen with adults that are our age that don't necessarily discuss it publicly because, you know, we're kind of like a part of a different generation. I feel like millennials tend to hide part of ourselves. Like it's an inclination to not tell too much of your story because that's actually technically a social advantage that's kind of been bred into us. Because if the more people know about you, that gives other people an advantage over you. That's how most people feel. So Gen Z, they kind of like, so you have the people.
They don't need Mimosa Monday. They don't need They don't need this. Like you're gonna get it out of me maybe on this Mimosa Monday. They just wear it all on their sleeve, and I'm like, I actually didn't ask, but okay.
In any location and any like they don't care
at any given time.
Yeah, which is admirable to a large degree. It's like it's admirable to not care that much, but then it's also like they also care so much. That and I think it's because of the state of the world too, because so we have to take every generation within the context of world events. Like this is the generation that didn't get prom. A lot of them did not. Right? This is a generation that didn't get, you know, that's a weird place to be in. This is just a generation that maybe because of the circumstances that they went through, like this person didn't get to get into that college that they were trying to because they needed to do certain classes that they couldn't take online. And that was going to be the difference in a strong competition to get into some of these elite schools. And like that permanently changed the trajectory of their life. And it was like they truly felt what it felt like to not have control. Like we didn't have the recession was like a problem. Like in 2008, that was like a problem for us. But like we actually kind of got off lucky because most of us were going to college, finishing college, and starting college.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So we got to look back like, let me go ahead and study this scan the field real quick, so I don't fuck up like everybody else did. So Gen Z doesn't have that.
Do you ever see those memes though that are like millennials just exhausted? It's like a recession, 9/11. Like it goes through all the events we've been through already by 30.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Like, yeah, we tired. Exactly. No, it's true though. We tired, yo. We tired because
we are tired.
Because yeah, just since 2016, because like that's like the first election I feel like most millennials were really, really paying attention to. Like we're like, oh shit, hold on.
Yeah,
we're talking about free healthcare. Well, let me just hear what they got to say real quick because my bill kind of high, and I ain't gonna be in college forever. So let me go ahead and hear what they got to say. So and then Trump made things interesting, especially on social media, and all of a sudden our entire generation was interested in politics, which really we kind of tuned out. We had like there was political cheerleading. I will say that prior, right with the Obama era, there was a political cheerleading session that went on, but it was for the first time in 2016, people actually were genuinely interested in how politics worked. And that was probably for us, like one of the first moments that we realized shit, we don't really have to say or do this, the things that the generations before us did in the exact way they did it. And we have other people who agree with us on this, because before it was like you got to follow the cookie cutter layout for success, whether it be and for acceptability, whether it be politics, work, whatever. You're not allowed to express your opinion in full. Remember, that was the whole thing on social media. No one ever really expressed their opinion in full like that on social media. It was always kind of like, let me not say this because I want my mom to react like this. I don't want my cousins to react like this. I don't want my friends to react like this.
Oh my God. Now it's full-blown diatribes from like Aunt Josephine on Facebook. Again, it's like, no one. Not ass. Like, Aunt Josephine is in the picture. Actually, Niko, I have a question for you, because when I hopped on a little fashionably late, all 3 minutes, I'll admit, I overheard you say, you were talking about my background in celebrity reporting and red carpet reporting, and now
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious because I heard you say something to the effect of like, I'm interested in, so I don't know if you're, because I know your background is politics. So are you interested in getting more into the pop culture sphere?
Yeah, I'm interested in all of it. So what the transition I was trying to make this year, however, it didn't really come into fruition because baby. So, you know, baby tended to disrupt your industry. But
understandably,
I want to talk about all of that because it's so intertwined, which is even why I changed the name of my podcast, of For the People podcast, because pop culture, politics, society, it's all intertwined. And right now, more than ever, they're all affecting one another to the point where, like, 100%. They find out you did something here, you can't get a job over here. Like, if they find out you voted for somebody, or even like motherfuckers looking at your donations, they're finding out who you donated to, right? Like, you remember that whole Chris Pratt like scandal? Yes. Like they were like calling him a radical. Pratt. I'm like, what?
He can't catch a break with his church, with his like, this guy's catching shit like, left, right, and sideways.
His church is like anti-gay. I'm like, well, I mean, the church being anti-gay, I mean, that kind of seems to be on brand for our church. I don't know why you're mad at him for that. Like,
no, literally,
you get what I'm saying? Like,
he's a mission statement in life. No,
yeah, like. He's the sweetest guy ever, and everybody's like trying to like kill his career because of a donation to Tulsi back in the day. Like, so
I've interviewed Chris Pratt, and this is exactly to your point, and why I've now made, or trying to make my way more into politics, because exactly to your point, it's how they really affect one another. And I would argue even these days, like, pop culture is and affects politics. Like, look at the memes of Trump, all of it, right? But even you see on a more granular level where something like that, how narratives blow up. And with Chris Pratt, so I've interviewed him a couple times, always the sweetest guy, but my favorite is when I interviewed him. I don't know if you're an Avengers or your audience are Avengers Marvels fans.
Girl, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is my favorite movie of all time. It's the best movie ever made.
Gosh,
it's not even close. It's not even close.
You will love this. So I was doing the press junket for Avengers Endgame. And for those of you who don't know, press junkets are notorious for being so uptight, stick up their ass, awkward, boring. Like, you're literally like, you're going through, you're in one room with the celebrity, but it's like you're in a cold, dark room with all the producers and PR and entourage on your ass. And it's just like the no fun.
Almost like a conveyor belt of media.
Literally, yes. And so it's just like a whirlwind. I'm sitting with like Dave Bautista and this guy and Don and all the people, right? Like, literally, I'm sitting there. Tom Holland walks by. Chadwick, when he was alive, walks by. So they bring me in to interview Zoe Saldana and Chris Pratt. And as I do.
Please tell. Oh, yeah, please. I want to hear about this because I got my theories about them, but go ahead.
Okay, you will love this. So I sit down, and sure enough, I'm like, just my luck. Because all these quirky things always, for whatever reason, I'm like the Forrest Gump with tits and blondes of Hollywood, and wind up in these kooky things. So I walk in, and sure enough, Chris Pratt walks out to take a bathroom break. And I'm like, oh, okay, as if this wasn't already awkward. So he comes in, we're kind of sitting in whatever awkward silence. And I'm like, Chris, we're on camera. The cameras are rolling the whole thing. And I'm like, Chris, how was your pee break? I'm like, we just shook hands.
That's
so
hilarious.
Like, are you good? And he's like, it was good, but I had to really had to fart, and there was somebody next to me. And when you have to hold it in? Here's Zoe Saldana. She's like, I hate that. That's the worst when that happens.
Are you serious?
We had so much fun. And then I ended up talking about, this is before their Guardians relationship like evolved. And I'm like, are you guys going to kiss? And she's like, well, we kind of shot something. And he's like, don't give it away. It was so much fun. And then at the end, I was like, all right, I got to roll. Like, because these things are like 3 minutes all in all. So you have to get it all in.
That's so crazy.
They were like, don't go. Like, we had so much fun. So, church never even
like my
came
favorite
up.
person.
And there you go.
That's so, listen, so I have this theory. That Zoe Saldana and Chris Pratt actually had a fling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see it.
And because I don't know if I had this theory. This is one of my shroom theories. I've done a lot of shrooms in my life, Taylor. And the first time I actually, no, so it was technically the second time I watched Guardians. I waited forever to watch Guardians 2, and I hadn't even really thought about why, which was kind of bizarre because I love Marvel movies. And I realized at the time that the reason why was because my best friend, who like always watches every Marvel movie like the first night. It's just like he's like a junkie, comic books and with the movies. Okay. So I realized he hadn't talked about the movie. And so my assumption was it might not be that good. And then I asked him randomly because I had just gotten done watching Guardians 1 and Guardians 2 hadn't actually arrived to Disney Plus yet at that time. And I said, yo, was the movie not good or something? He was like, Guardians 2 is fucking amazing. He said it was one of the best movies I've ever seen. I was like, what? Bro, you didn't say anything about that movie when you left the theater. He said, bro, I saw it twice by himself. Like he went to I'm like, are you kidding me? So then I kind of realized, I'm like, why would Baby Groot be so popular if Guardians 2 isn't popular? Because that's the only movie he's in.
Right.
So then I asked my friends, I'm like, yo, did y'all like Guardians 2? Oh, I fucking love Guardians 2. So then what I asked everybody, so it's like, what's the plot of the movie? And no one could remember the plot, which was super bizarre. I've never seen anything like this in my life. So then I watched the movie, and the first time I'm like, this is a damn good movie. What the hell? Like, it was like a really good movie even for Marvel. I'm like, this is a really, really good movie. So then because it was the last thing I had watched on my TV, like the morning I did shrooms, I'm like just trying to have something to take my attention away from being inside my head because no one told me what microdosing is. I just went straight to an eighth. Yeah, that's how that started. So straight to an eighth.
No.
Yeah, look, like I just never ended. That's basically where I've been on a permanent shroom high at this point. So I watched this movie and I'm looking at the colors and everything in the first fucking 10 minutes of the movie. I'm just like, this cannot be the same fucking movie I was watching yesterday. I know this is not the same movie I was watching because I don't remember any of this stuff. I'm like laughing my ass off. The music is hitting so much different. And I'm thinking to myself, James Gunn, what the fuck is going on with this guy's head? Like, how is he hitting all these notes? Like, because what really fucked me up was like, I watched this movie, okay? I got the plot whenever I watched him, like, oh, he's definitely going to betray him. That makes sense. Like, but then the next day, I'm like, hold on, did he just say his name is Ego? Was his name Ego yesterday when I watched this movie? And does he have an empath with him that won't even look him in the eye when they're walking side by side? Like, does anybody else find that fucking strange? And my friend was like, hey, I guess that is kind of strange. I didn't really think about that. I was like, so I looked it up. I'm like, because his dad in the comics is like a king of a different planet. It's not Ego. Ego is in the comics, but James Gunn got permission from, head guy in charge, Kevin Feige, to use Ego in that specific situation, which means like everything that he did with Ego was intentional. So when Ego enters the movie, all of a sudden, all the Guardians start fighting, right? They're fucking like Rocket is being Rocket, arguing with Quill. Gamora is afraid to admit that she's in love with Quill. Gamora and Nebula got their whole I love you, but like sibling rivalry thing going on. And the only person who's actually honest the whole movie, except for one part, is Drax. And it's because he's the autistic one.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling everybody the truth about everything all the time. And like when she's like, damn, why do you remember whenever they're about to leave and fly off to the to Ego's planet, he's like, God, you nag like an old. He said, you're like an old woman. He's like, why? Because I'm wise. Like Drax says that. Like, or when he called Mantis ugly, he's like, oh, you're horrifying to look at. And she's like, oh, he's like, but that's okay though. When you're ugly, you don't like have to. You can he was like, if you're ugly and everyone knows it, like, you know, somebody loves you because of who you are. He's like, beautiful people never know who to trust. I was like, what the fuck am I watching right now? And the whole time this is going, I realized, like, shit, when Ego came into the movie, everybody like started fighting with each other. Like, literally, even like Yandu and Sakar, his father figure, started fighting with each other. So everybody split up, right? So, but when they all made the conscious decision to destroy Ego, the entire family got back together. And everybody, I'm like watching this fucking movie, and I'm just like, this is insane. I cannot believe this is like the best movie ever made. And I don't even think everybody realizes it, but everybody loves it, which makes it even weirder.
So 2 things we just proved. 1, to not buy into, obviously, the political narratives that blow up, like Chris Pratt being this awful being, which is why I've done what I've done, right? Exposing all these narratives and just how people will take them and run with them, and they'll become so mainstream, contrary to real life and what actually goes on. But 2, that superhero blockbuster, Marvel, DC, they can be cinematic experiences.
Yes.
Which, contrary to what the likes of Martin Scorsese have said.
Yeah, he's a fucking hater. That motherfucker's a hater, bro. He's such a hater.
You know what's so funny, Niko? Is I would have taken you for somebody who was in that camp. Because you're so intellectual, I would take you for someone who's like, this is all trash. Like, what is the meaning? What is the purpose?
Oh, I hate people like that. They're like that, pretend to be intellectual and they say it's all trash. I'm like, well, have you watched the movies? Because you don't understand something is trash. It's like when people say that God doesn't exist. I'm like, why? Because the proof doesn't exist. I say, oh no, the proof that you don't understand or comprehend doesn't exist. Therefore, what you say is true. That doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just evidence of your ignorance. That isn't evidence of absence. Like,
right.
Because for me, you can't. So when it comes to Guardians, let's just take Guardians for example. Guardians, as far as the Marvel world is concerned, is like a new thing. It's new even for the comic books. It's even new as far as our generation, because my generation never got to experience a Guardians cartoon or anything like that. They are new to us completely and totally. My mom's generation never got the Guardians, and yet it was the most popular film next to the Avengers movie until Black Panther came out. Like, it was it's like not like they have traditional powers. It's not a traditional situation as far as superhero movies are concerned, and yet everyone loved it. So it's like you have to, in my opinion, you have to take a step back and figure out, like, why is it? Because I wouldn't give Guardians a chance for 3 years, Taylor. I wouldn't give it a chance. My mom kept trying to convince me to watch it. My friends keep trying to. I'm like, I'm not about to watch that shit. Like, who got powers? Like, Drax's only power is like getting beat up and being okay and laughing. Go ahead.
You know what, Niko, to your point, I often argue that, I don't know, now it's coming back a little bit, but that entertainment lost its entertainment value that you're talking about, why we're drawn to it, right? For it to inspire us and to be artists and to escape, because they try to become so damn preachy about everything. And even what we were saying before, how I feel like pop culture affects politics and not the other way around. Because when you think about it, look what happens when politics affects pop culture and Hollywood and media. It doesn't work. Like, they're rolling back all their DEI. They try to do all these quotas, all these, like, everything. Like, we talked about the Pixar, Disney taking the trans character. It's like, it doesn't work.
And quotas they're not even necessary in my opinion. Like, quotas are not necessary. It's like, don't be a douchebag racist and just make every decision based off of talent.
Like, literally, like, it's not hard.
It's not. Now, it shouldn't be hard. I will say, like, there are some people who get it wrong, but then I always make the argument, at least when it comes to like films, for example, when they get it wrong, they pay for it. Like, literally, they pay for it.
What's an example, Niko?
So, the way they did. I guess I could say DC. I feel like DC got it wrong in every way, like in every possible way, whether with Wonder Woman, for example. And Wonder Woman, the second one, the first one, I was like, okay for me, but the second one, they went over the top, right? With the way that they told the story, it felt like we're going to lean into this feminism thing. We're going to lean into the over the top independent woman thing. It's like, it's cool whenever it's a natural fit.
Agreed.
But it's not. It's like, but what made the whole family concept or the found family concept of Guardians so dope was that you don't even know you're experiencing it, right?
Mhm.
The fact, for example, they got the best person for Gamora's character, which sounds like a simple thing to do because they almost got that girl from Tattoo with the Schmeagle eyes that they made fun of her for looking like Schmeagle. She got like big old eyes, white girl. They almost got her because of her eyes, actually. But they went with Zoe Saldana. And truthfully, the dynamic between Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, it would be different than Chris Pratt and some random other white celebrity actress who wasn't fit for that role for him. Because interacting for him, a white guy interacting with a beautiful black woman, is not the same thing as interacting with a beautiful white woman. All beautiful white women like Chris Pratt for the most part. Like he can have whatever he wants. But Zoe Saldana, who has different experiences, a different viewpoint of life, a different background, the way she carries herself, even her like attitude, like that made like him almost like kind of like the little boy that he was actually like for the character he was actually playing. He had to, every time he's around, all of a sudden his confidence kind of like shrinks. He's more awkward. He does the most. He's trying to do the most to impress her, right? And it's like you can see it coming through his character versus like the first girl that he was with, like Barit, whatever her name was in the first movie. He was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you. I forgot you were here." Like, and that's how his character is normally. But with Zoe Saldana, the dynamic was affected directly, in my opinion, impacted because they got the best person for that role.
I agree. I couldn't agree.
What needs to be.
And what you said about Wonder Woman is so interesting because I'm the first one to call out the bullshit. And I'm the most like, hear me roar on woman, yes. But like when it's obviously trying too hard, I'm just like, we're onto it, we're over it, right? Like I even saw a story recently that they were trying to do a 007.
Maybe black and white, but life isn't. So yeah, it's true.
Right, we try. We're one of those, like, what's the like a black and white cookie and just sweet on the inside. You know, the black and
white cookie. You mean Oreo?
No, it's a literal, I think they're literally called black and white. I'll pull up a photo for you and show you. That's us. And we're sweet in the middle, but they were trying to do a 007 show with a woman. And just this is where it's like, just for the sake of doing it, what is the reason? And I think the original franchise owners of 007 are like, we're not going to do this. Like, this is nonsense. But to your point about Wonder Woman, I loved the first one because I always feel like when you're trying to send a message, it's like too hard. Like just be it and embody it. And that says enough to your point.
Exactly.
Oddly enough, I was actually on the Wonder Woman 2 set in London reporting on it. And I interviewed Pedro Pascal and Patty Jenkins, the director, Chris Pine, Gal Gadot. And I had high hopes because I actually didn't think the first one is too preachy. I thought it was like just right.
It was just right, yeah.
Is one of the reporters, because when you go on these set visits, you're with a group of reporters and everyone, it's just kind of like survival of the fittest. You have to like, they're like mini press conferences. So they pull them between scenes, the talent. So you just have to jump in with your question. And I remember
boy, being a Hollywood reporter is work. Jesus Christ.
I have seen.
You gotta be on your damn toes.
I have. It's no wonder I'm not having. It's a wonder I'm not having Mimosa Monday every day. But yes, it's survival of the fittest. But I'll never forget this woman asked, and you have to keep in mind too, it's embargoed, right? Especially for these huge blockbusters. Like they take like a hair, semen, blood sample, your firstborn child. They're like, you cannot reveal anything about this until we tell you. And it's usually a large gap, right? Because filming takes so long. So this reporter asked Gal Gadot about Me Too and like something. And I remember even Gal Gadot was like she was very gracious, but she was sort of like, what the fuck does this have? Like, why would you be asking me about Me Too when I'm on the, like, first of all, it's not even going to be timely by the time this movie, like, how does it have to do with this movie? So, you know, it's interesting that little behind the scenes tidbit when you look at like, you know, even thinking like Wonder Woman 2 was like preachy off the top of the feminism thing. But again, that thing of how in real life,
based off of being on set at the time, you wouldn't even have gotten like it was going to go that direction.
I wouldn't have exactly. And you even have the lead actress. And granted, she doesn't have creative control over everything, but even like for her, and I agreed with her to be like, this is, why would you be asking me about this right now? Like, it's not the place or time. Like what you know?
Even though I'm not personally a Gal Gadot fan, I feel like she probably should have got a little bit more involved in the script there. Like that's one of those things, like, once again, this is where James Gunn's probably going to save DC because I was not even. So I went to see the second Suicide Squad because it was James Gunn. I was like, well, man, I might as well. If James is doing it, then I'm just gonna go fucking watch it. Whatever. That movie was amazing. It was fucking amazing. I'm like, holy shit.
The second one?
The second one with Idris Elba and John Cena.
Oh, that one I didn't see. I saw the first one.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's like James Gunn has this like amazing ability to have so many stars in one movie and make their storylines and story arcs all like just interconnect and intersect, and no one seems to be stepping on the toes of the other person. Like that's what it was the same thing with Suicide Squad. Then I watched Peacemaker, which is a series on HBO Max based off of Suicide Squad that he did. And I'm like, this motherfucker just really knocked this shit out the park because I'm like, I'm not gonna watch a goddamn super, our anti-villain or anti-hero series with John Cena. Peacemaker, like that guy's the most random, but like it's almost like he just wanted to show y'all, like, yeah, I can literally take a fucking Peacemaker. Like y'all don't even know what the fuck Peacemaker is, and I will make this. And it's one of the best performing DC series, and at the time it was like the most popular show on HBO Max. And it was like if you watch the series, it becomes very quick to understand why he's like dealing with the issues with his father. Like it shows how he basically, even though they're dealing with like stuff in the present. Because of all his relationships, it shows how he became the person he became in the movie, like how he ended up becoming a villain. And in his mind, in his heart and soul, he's never been the villain. In his heart and soul, he's never been the villain, even though he clearly is one. But his heart isn't. He just is doing what he was taught to do. And James Gunn just once again just lays out so many. Just life, just shit about life. There's so much stuff out there. And you are picking it up without him ever having to say it explicitly. And it's like, it's an art to be able to do that. It's very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with the Wonder Woman 2, like what, like you said, what made Wonder Woman 1 so amazing, like even got like, it's hard to have a movie based around a superhero that's a female where a bunch of guys are not fucking complaining.
Right.
Like, it's hard. It's, because there's a lot of guys out there that just, man, they just hate women. It's usually the ones that maybe they don't have a good relationship with their mom.
Oh my God. Niko, I was on the Whatever podcast. Trust me, I know.
Oh, you went on?
I was naive about
men.
I always had, and still do have the backs of men and, give them the benefit of the doubt and feel like they're getting a bad rap and getting shit on. And then I was on that show and I was like,
give men the benefit of the doubt. I don't even do it. Come, man. I'm like, I've been around it. I've been in locker rooms. I've been everywhere. I've been in
you're like, I've seen, just like me on the carpet. You're like, I've been in the locker rooms. Okay. I've seen
for real. Like I've been in the military. I played like soccer. I played soccer, ran track, played basketball. Like soccer athletes are probably the cockiest motherfuckers you will ever meet in your life, bro. Like in high school, and soccer isn't even that popular in high school, like, or in the US, especially in high school. It's only growing in popularity recently, but even still, because you're really playing something that most people don't have the ability to play, because our team was good. So like they're cocky, and like the stuff that they talk about casually, like for me, even I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Did you really just say that shit? Like, so it's like, but my thing is when it comes to movies like that, because there are the people, it's like, those are the people these are the guys who actually are like, they do have good relationships with their mom. Like these are the guys who don't have a problem getting them in. Imagine the ones sitting behind the desk looking like, Destiny, the debater. Mm-hmm. Like imagine the Destinies of the world who don't have that type of platform. Like there are more of them than there are of everybody else.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Niko.
No. I'm just saying, like, and that's usually the type of person that will come out and criticize a Wonder Woman type of film, just because it stars a woman.
I think. Well, first of all, here's the black and white cookie. You've seen these, right?
No, that looks amazing.
Yeah, we got to get you in on that.
It must be some West Coast shit. Is that like a West Coast? You were.
I was raised on the East Coast. This is some East Coast deli shit happening right here.
That looks so. Oh yes, okay. You talking the big ones?
Yes, and they're
yes.
But okay, this is a little bit of a hot take, but I think when it comes to watch, I think it's the same kind of thing with women in sports. We're seeing this whole conversation right now with, the WNBA. Yes. And I think there's something to be said. Yes, I think there's one category of guys who are just haters, and are such outward misogynists, and I have such a theory about that, especially after like talking about this for years, covering it for years, being on the whatever podcast. I do think this is the hot take portion where there's something to be said about how I'm generalizing here, but are drawn because men are just more physical, aggressive, right? That whether it be superhero movies or sports, like we're just naturally drawn to watching men be in that role. And I think
that's a possibility. I mean,
that's just something kind of primal and natural. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And, I spoke with Nikki Bella about this actually, because she's like changed the game for WWE. She's one of the biggest female wrestlers of all time, because she talked about like female ticket sales. And this was recently too. And like women getting paid the same as male wrestlers and all this. And she kind of acknowledged, like, I said this to her. I was like, is there just something innate? Like what you've done is amazing. And, there's no knock on it at all. But is there just something innately where people are drawn to watching men do this physical beat the shit out? And she kind of was like, yeah, but still get us paid, right? Like,
hey, I hear that. So, hey, I mean, shit, it can be both things, right? Yeah, but hey, fuck that noise. Like, give me my money. Like,
exactly.
But, here's I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So here's the thing about that. So I do believe that there is something innate. Well, no, I can't say it's innate. I can say that there's probably something conditioned into us, right? Because of what we have traditionally believed, the role that we traditionally believe women should play in society. So we don't believe, because we're not taught to believe for the longest time, at least, that women should be beating the shit out of each other. That should not be viewed as entertainment for anybody.
That too.
Right? So now there's you have to kind of overcome an expectation that was conditioned into you for a long time for you to actually sit back and give an objective, unbiased opinion about what you're viewing. I feel like part of the reason, Caitlin Clark is a large reason why the league is why the WNBA has done so much better. It's getting so much love now, and shout out to her. And it's partially because of her talent. But the first thing that I saw Caitlin Clark like on as far as the highlights concerned, like she was balling, but the first highlight I saw was her talking shit. Like talking cash money shit to somebody after she hit a three and like getting in their face. And that was why the clip went viral, not because of her performance. Like she had been balling, but it wasn't until that moment that they actually started acknowledging just how well she was playing. And then Angel Reese, same thing.
Yep.
She's is aggressive. She has this edge to her. And then when they finally that was like the best thing that could have happened which is crazy, right? The best thing that could have happened to the WNBA was Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark meeting their junior year. Like before they even got to their senior year, before their last year even playing, we didn't even know that was what we needed. They didn't know that was what they needed. And they were going crazy at each other. And it was like watching Bird, if you were back, we weren't born yet, but for those who watched Larry Bird and Magic Johnson for the first time, like in college, and that knowing like, wow, the NBA is about to be lit, finally. And it was because they're talking shit, going back and forth. Like, and it's like, and for Caitlin and Angel, what makes it cool is like they're only doing it on the court. And that's how it should be. And their aggression, everything that we love about male sports and about males playing in sports, like all of a sudden we saw being portrayed by women in this particular sport, but it was like being covered to the degree that it should have. And all of a sudden we're like, well, shit, man, maybe I can deal with some layups. Now I don't really need to watch dunks like that. They're going to be doing all this.
I have a question for you. Did you see Shaq on Angela's podcast? And he talks about how they should lower the net for the WNBA so we could see women dunk. And it's hot to watch these like hot athletic women dunk. And she's like, no. And I was in his corner on that one. I was like, I could see what he's saying there.
So
like there's something again, the primal thing, right? Like watching this to your point, like in your face, aggressive, like woman, and just like dunk on their ass.
So there's a level like that would be dope. However, the problem with that is like as a professional athlete, especially, you want as few handicaps as possible. And there are women right now, there are little girls right now who are aspiring to be the first point guard in the NBA, like the NBA, playing with men. right? They don't want the handicap because like there is a kid like myself, I didn't learn how to dunk. I played on a 10-foot goal my entire life. I think my dad just left it there, basically. We never played on a goal shorter than that. At least not to my recollection, which is kind of like weird to say because like I'm watching my 6-year-old try to shoot on a 10. I'm like, how the hell was I doing that? I confer with my dad. I was shooting on a 10-foot goal. So it was just, so like I had to fix my shot. And then when I wanted to learn how to dunk, I had always been playing on a 10-foot goal. So that has always been my metric. I wasn't doing random dunks like on a small goal. I was always trying to dunk, and I learned how to dunk in high school because like that was the only height that I had. And so I had to jump and practice and train myself to reach the actual goal, which was 10 foot. Because that's what I would, if I played professionally, that's what I would be playing on. So I feel like for women, like right now, there are women who dunk in the WNBA. Now there's not as many and it's not as prolific, but that's also because women haven't been training themselves to be superstar freakish level athletes for multiple generations. Like there are multiple generations of men. Like, bro, there's people in the NBA, they're the second and the third professional player in their family. It's literally a fraternity. So it's like,
yeah. And it's
when
funny
you train now the next generation of women, we don't know what they're going to be athletically because we've never seen this. This is the first time that a lot of women have more than a generation playing professionally. So what's going to happen when they get the training and the genetics?
I think too, what he was saying is, and I agree with this to your point, how right women do dunk. It's just it's not as frequent, and that there'd be more like give the people what they want. They want to not to enable the participation trophy and any of that, but like would we be more inclined to watch if we're going to see more of that kind of thing too, which is a win-win all around. More money. More
I think you could try it in college.
More action. Yeah,
you could try it in college, right? Because that's the place to try. They always try shit in college, right? So, but you're starting to see like less dunking in the league now, like in the NBA. Like, which is kind of a weird thing because you have to be able to dunk usually if you want a chance to make an NBA. But once you get there, you're like outside of the big men, your ability to dunk is like, or your opportunities to dunk are few and far between because of the way the game is played now. So like, it's almost like, yeah, is it the dunking that people want to see more varied movement, less threes, like, or at least if you're gonna take that many threes, like, bro, like. Don't just fucking pass the ball around for 3 minutes just to take a bad three. Like do what made the game so much fun, which was like try to get to the paint, take mid-range shot, get creative in between the three and the basket. Like that's what everybody loved to see. Like it's like how everybody thinks that the NFL for some reason is better off with more offense. I don't know where the fuck they got that from. We like seeing motherfuckers get lit the fuck up. That's what we like. Everybody that I love growing up, they were on defense. I barely knew offensive players growing up. It's the total opposite now. Yeah. They act like defensive players are interchangeable. When back in the day it was the opposite of that. So I like touchdowns are cool, but like I want to see motherfuckers get lit up. That's the whole point. Like when they say America isn't inherently a violent country, that's bullshit. But that is motherfucking bullshit.
Like the proof is in the pudding. That is the NFL. Okay.
Yeah. Since you were 8 years old.
That's
Taylor,
so true, Niko.
8, 9, 10 years old, ladies and gentlemen. We have learned that when somebody is not giving you what you deserve, you fuck them up and take it. It is called the American Revolutionary War. We have had it bred into us that we are inherently a violent country, and if a motherfucker's feeling froggy, then leave. Like that is what we're raised on. So don't mean everybody wants to see motherfucking finesse football.
You just explained in a nutshell, which I was gonna sidebar off and get your take on, is the resentment toward women right now. And I feel like you just said it so perfectly, but it's the idea of like, in my opinion, that guys have been totally shit on the last 10 plus years. Everything's wrong. That's male gaze, this. They haven't gotten what they wanted, which is what you just said. And so now they're retaliating. And it's almost like they want I'm talking about like the incels who watch the whatever podcast, right?
No, you're correct. You're correct. Like I mean, we saw there's no reason that Andrew Tate, for example, should be as popular as he is. There's no reason for it.
What is the reason?
But it's here, so you got to address it.
Let's address it. Like, what is the reason, right? Because even from my experience on that show, and it's so sad because at the end of the day, to your point, is it mommy issues? Is it that they want and fear and resent women so much they just lash out and hate like the sad part is if they embrace, they could get all the good that comes with all this. And it's like they're so what is the Andrew Tate phenomenon then?
It's because people see. So Andrew Tate, for example, he tries to project himself as being a self-made man whose personality and drive and work ethic got him to where he's at, which like none of that's actually true. He used to scam people, and like also his father was famous before B-list famous, but he was famous in Europe, and so he was born into money. He's born into a comfortable and secure situation, and everybody knows when you're born into a more comfortable and secure situation, you can take more risks with a lower chance of you can take more risks with a lower chance of any negative blowback in your life. So like that automatically puts you in a separate category. And then he's also willing to fuck people over and lie to people. But that part doesn't really get as much. It did eventually, but that he's already too famous, so it doesn't matter. So that part didn't get a lot of coverage. So if he just goes around talking, saying everything a man wants to hear, right? He just kind of like traffics tropes, traditional tropes, like, hey, be asshole and like you'll get everything you want with zero caveat. Like, and of course, men want to hear that. That's a lot easier. Shit, you telling me I can just be an asshole and now solve all my problems? I'll get women. And yeah, but he don't say that you're not gonna get the right type. Because he don't talk about the benefit of being able to build with a woman, because all the men that I know in my personal life that have done amazing things and are actually happy, not they've done amazing things, they make a lot of money, but they're actually fucking, they are depressed and they use their life to distract them. I'm talking about have built things, built businesses, become successful, have a family, have a wife, have money, and they're happy as fuck. Like all of them have an amazing woman in their lives.
Right.
And the value that an amazing woman who actually understands you and understands your story and understands what you need to help you be the best version of yourself as a man, like there is a value that cannot be quantified, which is why you will see that they call it power couple for a reason. It's hard to achieve. Sometimes they'll say this successful person, this successful person, that's a power couple. No, the power couples are the ones when they both kind of, one of them wasn't successful, and the other one was like maybe doing okay, or both of them were kind of starting from the bottom. And because of the contributions they made to each other in their lives, that's how they became a power couple. They became successful. That is because you can't, this is almost nothing you can do to separate them. And also they're in a rhythm. They have a chemistry that you can't get into when you're just by yourself and life is kind of random. When it's true. It's so true. You don't have somebody to check you all the time. Because I need somebody like that in my life that can check me, that notices the patterns that I don't notice about myself. That makes me, you get what I'm saying? Like, Niko, he don't talk about that.
What do you think has happened culturally? Because as you said it so beautifully, like there's no reason an Andrew Tate should be this powerful and this influential. Like, what do you think? I mean, even his whole thing of making, and listen, I'm all about men being men. I was in Playboy in a feature I pitched, like, okay, objectify me and also read my essay, bitch. Like, I have no problem with men being men.
Hey, that's true though. Like, but that's so true.
What is it that happened that like his whole mindset of, and it comes out in everything he says and does, of women serving him, being his subservient. He literally tweeted on election day, like women shouldn't be able to vote. Like, why haven't men
why did you tweet this?
Literally, like, why haven't men rejected this and why are they buying into it? Like, what has happened, do you think, that has led to men eating this out of the palm of his hand?
So I would say definitely white men feel left behind by society. I feel like the promise of capitalism in both Western Europe and the US has failed them. And for the very first time ever, and I want to be very clear about this, like, so there has been, as a Black person who knows this history, there have been laws passed for me to not achieve success, literally, for me to not be able to invest in my family, for my parent or my grandparents to not be able to invest in themselves, whether you want to talk about redlining, Fair Housing Act, the destruction of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Every time, I mean, we have had laws passed so we can't be successful. When you're a white male, the only thing stopping success is, maybe an opportunity here or there. in your personal drive. That for the longest time, that was it. And that's not the case anymore. White males are going through a lot of the same thing that the rest of the male population that doesn't fit into the alpha white male category have been through. But the difference is we're used to adversity. We're used to clawing our way to the top. That's kind of normal for us. For them, they were hey, you told me if I worked hard and if I, take care of my family, if I do this and do that and don't fuck up, and even if I do fuck up, hell, you're still supposed to protect me. But if I don't fuck up, I'm supposed to be able to have this type of life, and it's the total opposite. And now they're not getting that. And all of a sudden, the media and the general culture went from protecting them even when they're wrong to accusing them even if they didn't do anything.
So right, it went too far the other way. That's what I was going to ask you. Is like, if you think even on a cultural level, like I make references to, like the male standard objectification and male gaze and this and the patriarchy, like now it's just kind of gone too far where it's actually not
overcorrected. Yeah, and it's because it's become almost profitable because of the people who know how to make money off of it. Like, which ironically generally falls into the category of fucking white guys. I just find it's just hilarious. It's hilarious. I'm telling you, like in politics, when I thought that it would be obvious, like, yo, if I'm a black person talking about my political experience, my life experiences, and I'm explaining to you, I'm talking to you about black issues, I would assume, just naturally that my commentary part would probably be a little bit more valuable, and that people want to hear that. And it turns out it actually can be perceived as being more valuable, which is exactly why those same white guys who are supposedly on your team and support your policies will try to fucking destroy you because they don't want the competition. They need to be able to use your issue, whether it be black people, Latinos, women, whatever. They need to be able to use your issue, make as much money as possible off of it by playing the white savior role. Yep. And they need to look as little competition as possible, because if I tell people, if you vote for that fucking segregationist bastard Joe Biden, I don't want you to I don't want to hear a goddamn word about you talking about defund the police, because he's gonna get more money to police. He's gonna lock more people, lock more kids up in cages. He already has a 40-year track record. I don't need fucking 4 more years to know what I already know. And people were like, whoa, hold on, this black person is not saying what what's that motherfucker from South Carolina? I can't remember his name, but like all like Hakeem Jeffries and like whoa, why is this black person saying this? I thought that we were all supposed to vote for Joe Biden regardless. Like, no, he's a segregationist, don't vote for him. Well, then what do you mean? Should we vote for Trump? Like, vote for who you want to, but like if you think that voting for Biden is going to negate whatever racism you perceive about Trump, like, no, because Joe Biden is objectively more racist. You can't be more racist than a segregationist. It's because everybody got a little bit of prejudice that the majority of people have a little bit of prejudice that they had, like, just grew up around because of the circumstances. But people learn how to deal with it in their own way, and they don't let it seep into their personal and work lives. This motherfucker woke up racist and decided, I'm so racist, I want to pass policy to fucking project my racism.
No, exactly. I'm gonna put pen to paper to really make this shit legit. Yes,
I'm gonna work with fucking KKK members and literal segregationists in Congress to make sure my racism is felt by the world. Like, no, but when but what happened was people realized if a black person is saying this and a lot of people are tuning in, then why the hell would they need to watch my show? Because then what happens next whenever that black person is right and I'm wrong? So so now, like I said, the white guys who don't manage to, they're honest. A lot of them are the honest guys, just trying to get by, right? They're feeling the impact of a world trying to fuck them over, and they don't have any explanation for it.
That's a really good way of putting it. And I'll give you a really great behind the scenes. We talk about Marvel. I'll give you a really great entertainment parallel to the white savior and the Joe Biden. But first, I will say, just funny enough, because we're talking about, quote, men being men, I just got a news notification. Matt Gaetz regularly paid women for sex from at least 2017 to 2020. So there you go on that. Right on cue.
I'm all right. Shit. So I mean, that's kind of his. Was he married or something? Like, did he break a law?
There's all speculations if it was like minors or that goes where it gets murky, but I don't know. Yeah. But the white savior thing, and how they made Joe Biden like the figurehead to write the whole thing is, and I actually spoke on Fox News about this at the time, but right when they were doing all the like Oscars inclusion stuff, right? I covered this thing at Disney. You know who Bob Iger is?
Yes.
Okay. So this is right when all of this stuff was happening. Like it was all coming to a head. And Bob Iger, right, middle-aged white guy, head of Disney's giving this whole speech in Burbank on the studio, the whole thing. Kerry Washington is in the audience, amongst others. And he's giving this whole speech about the need to basically do what you just said, like bring these voices who have the merit, bring them in the fold, like this whole diatribe, right? And I'm thinking like, this is the kind of bullshit that I would call out, that I would see all the time. Like, if you're so on your high horse about it, why don't you make Kerry Washington the head of your studio right now? Like, walk the walk then. It's all talk. It's all talk.
It's all talk. And it was especially for Disney, I would say, because what's crazy about Disney is the fact that the MCU is part of Disney. Like that just happened to be a fucking no-brainer decision because Avengers did $1 billion. Like everybody was ignoring the fuck out of the MCU for a while, and it's actually, it's kind of like not, because Kevin Feige isn't Jewish. So like as far as that's concerned, as far as a director and a producer running a fucking studio and not being Jewish is actually kind of a big deal. And he was actually getting punished for it to some degree. And because superhero movies have a bad rap for all the reasons that you listed earlier, he wasn't getting any awards. And yet he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to pick the best people for the right role. Because when he worked with Robert Downey Jr. when no one thought that he like that was. Oh man, sorry. I'm trying to translate from Portuguese to English. He worked with Robert Downey Jr. when everyone thought that Robert Downey Jr. was done and that he was not. You can't work with him anymore. He's not in his prime anymore. And like Robert Downey Jr. said that saved his life. Because he knew, like, I feel like maybe all this experience that Robert Downey Jr. has had over the last year actually makes him the perfect fucking Iron Man for this generation, right? Fast forward, the best decision that Disney had made up until Infinity Wars was having Ryan Coogler make Black Panther. So if people don't know, Ryan Coogler was basically a fucking child. When by movies, by film industry standards, and by his literal age, I think it was like 2021 at the time. It was a big controversy because it's like you bringing Ryan Coogler in to direct Black Panther, guys. I know we've had Blade, I know we have but like everybody and their mama, especially because of how much they fell in love with Chadwick in Black Panther and Civil War with Captain America. But like this is like people are. I ain't gonna lie, Black people were waiting to judge them. They were waiting for it. And because you have been tasked, because now you remember people, like everybody acts like MCU was like just dropping hit after hit. Like Thor was like, the first one was okay, it was good, I guess. But compared to like Ragnarok, like it wasn't even close. They didn't always get it right. This is everybody always just assumes that MC was going to get it right era. And they're now handing this 21-year-old kid who never made a real, like a studio film. He just won a indie film festival award, and that was it. And you're going to give him Chadwick Boseman. You're going to give him superstars. You're giving him Michael B. Jordan in his prime. Mm-hmm. Okay, man just won like second man on the planet, all that shit. You're giving him Chadwick Boseman. This is after he played what's that baseball movie?
Oh, damn yeah,
42. Jackie Robinson. Yeah. Played fucking James Brown. 42?
Yeah.
Like, you're giving him the stars, future stars, old stars, and you're like, hey, man. And also, a lot of this shit going to be based, a lot of like the MCU is going to have to be based in Wakanda and be surrounded by, or be based in the struggle for vibranium. So, good luck. And this man told the story of how Black people are used by the military industrial complex, about how there is this beef between Africans and Black Americans, and how there is a struggle. There is a struggle to reach our potential, and how there's also how does the struggle to reach our potential actually in Africa, but there's also like the ones who do end up reaching their potential end up becoming isolated and they shrug off the rest of the Black community. But then there's also the struggle to reach potential in America for completely different reasons. And those struggles collided. And by the end of the film, they reconciled, but at the end of the day, like the whole Black experience was told from multiple perspectives. And it was because Kevin Feige saw this 21-year-old kid and was like, yeah, he can do it. Are you sure? He's never done anything like this. Are you sure? You're giving this man like $300 million and being like, hey man, and his film, Black Panther was because they had found out all the research he did, all the other directors found out, he did a shitload of research, more than any other director had done at that point to prepare for a film. That was the only release that every single director in the MCU had gone to. And they didn't find out until they did the little round table for Avengers Endgame. They were like, hold up, was that the only one that because they all got their own products too. So they was like, that was the only film that all directors like, I'm going to that shit. All the producers, all the directors, whenever it released. So getting the best person for the job is like, will solve 98% of your problems, even if it doesn't solve it today. Like you might even take some fucking shit today, but but at the same time, don't stop somebody from attaining a goal or prevent somebody from having an opportunity solely because of who they can't be.
Absolutely.
That's not
absolutely. So, that just reminded me of something. Okay. You know how right now, I'm going to be honest, it's calmed down a little, but again, this is in the height of it, how white people feel like we don't like want to say the wrong thing. It's like walking, like we don't want to offend, right? So I was
making a joke the other day. Speaking of Black Panther, I made a joke the other day with my friends. Like, it's like your white friends don't ever really say anything about Black Panther. They don't say Wakanda forever, nothing. They're like, hey man, how you feel about Black Panther? I love great film. Love everything about it.
Right? Okay. So this goes perfectly into that. So I was interviewing Ava DuVernay when she did A Wrinkle in Time. And I also interviewed like Oprah, Reese, Mindy Kaling, right? The whole thing. But this at another junket, what have you. And I said to her, and I think that this is like an example of why white people are like, oh, fuck, I'd rather just not say anything. I said to her, and what was this like? I don't know, 27, 28. Yeah, what was the year? But basically, Black Panther and A Wrinkle in Time, which was a huge Disney film, were like dominating the box office at the same time. And I said to her something to the effect of like, it must feel so, because she, as a Black woman, directed this, I think, and she broke a record of like, as a Black woman having the biggest budget for a Disney film for A Wrinkle in Time. Like, it was this huge deal.
That's dope.
And so I sit down with her and I say something to the effect of like, it must feel so good to be in this moment where you have these Black-led films like you with A Wrinkle of Time, Black Panther, killing it at the same time. And she corrected me and was like so pissed. She's like, I think what you mean to say is, and I don't even remember how she corrected me, but I remember at the time I was like, that's what? Bizarre. Like, I don't know how else to say it. And so, what I mean?
Like, I feel like that's the exact way to word it. Like, that's exactly, that's how we felt. Because like, let's not cap. I don't, if a Black person tells you otherwise, they're lying. They're like, no, we knew exactly what we had achieved through Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman. We were out there with our chests out. Yeah, number one movie in Marvel, bitch.
Exactly.
Tell me a Black superhero can't sell. Tell me again.
Yes.
We knew exactly what the fuck we just did. We witnessed history. Like, and we had no problem, bro. When Chadwick Boseman, when I tell you it was the saddest, I mean, it was sad just because of who he is.
I know.
But what people who aren't part of the Black community didn't get to witness was how hard our kids were taking it. Because that was the first time that they had like, so this is before, you gotta remember, Black Panther was before Miles Morales, Spider-Man's Into the Spider-Verse release. So this is the only Black superhero that they've ever seen. And he is that nigga. It ain't like he's just a Black superhero, just all, just chilling. No offense to what's his name who played War Machine? I always forget his name. The one who plays Rhodey in Iron Man, not Terrence Howard, the one who replaced him. Man, he's
oh my God, what is Don Cheadle?
Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
So he's that's Don though. Don, like you in the military and shit, like whatever, that's cool. Like he ain't like Black Panther. He ain't Chadwick Boseman, right? They were like, okay, so Chadwick, hold on, Black Panther died. And bruh, they had to do a kind of like a funeral with my nephew's toys, like to help explain to him why there wouldn't be another Black Panther movie. Because my nephew's crying. Oh no. Oh, my whole group chat was crying because now we're all thinking like we gotta explain this shit to kids. Like because for us, Black Panther was such a big deal, and Chadwick being at the center of that, and then Ryan Coogler being at the center of that, like was it was just like an intersection of everything that we love about us.
Yeah.
And then our kids got it, and we didn't get that. We never got it. I'm like, this is about to be lit.
It's like packaged in a cool superhero blockbuster. So it's like everything. Like it's packaged in such a like badass way. Yeah.
And there's so many lessons about the film you can use. Like that. It was perfect. And then like it was like ripped from us. And we're like, motherfucker, we can't even have a superhero. Like, God damn, it was so hard. So like the fact that she's like upset, I'm thinking what you mean to say is no, you said exactly how we felt. Like that was a huge moment because it wasn't like we were just doing well in the States. That shit was going crazy in Japan, in China. Like they broke China records.
Well, I have an interesting one for you with all this. There was a new study. I was actually going to send you this before our stream, but there was a new study, I believe, out of UCLA, and it talks about all, diversity on screen. And obviously, right, goes without saying, like white men dominating and all this. But what's more interesting is what the audience wants and is gravitated toward. Mm-hmm. And it talked about how Latinos are gravitated toward, hence the Trump effect. Like, men and people that embody their values and who they want to be, like the machismo, the tough guy, like all that, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Black audiences, for the most part, were drawn to pieces that merely mirror people who look like them and or that their experience. So what do you make of that? I mean, is it kind of just like what you were just saying?
So for the Latino community, their community is actually so extremely complex because like your Texas Latino is not going to be the same as your Cuban Latino from Miami, or they're not going to be the same as your Puerto Rican from New York, or a Mexican from California is not going to be the same as a Mexican from Texas.
So true.
Right. So like they might have like maybe the adoration for machismo personality in common, but their definition of that is completely different depending on who you ask. So but there's also like a chase to be the white man that is prevalent in the white Latino community. That is a thing. So with Black people, we have also been so underrepresented, or at least underappreciated for so many, for so long. Like whether it comes to music or the film industry. Because for example, people always say like, oh, it's because these songs aren't popular enough, or rap artists aren't popular enough, and then you like hear this pop artist literally just steal all the style, all the dance moves, they dumb down the lyrics and then market it, and they just have a white person sing it, and it's like, hold on, what the fuck, you just said this shit wasn't popular, right? And it's like, no, it's just they don't want to give you the
Ariana Grande. God, it's just dry out here. No, she's Italian, guys. She's Italian. Okay.
Look, Taylor Swift pulled Ariana Grande. Like this is a thing, right? Like Ed Sheeran, he's talented as shit. Ed Sheeran did nothing that Drake ain't do. He didn't do nothing that The Weeknd ain't do. Like Ed Sheeran, bro. I hate to tell you, in Black people world, you was basic. You are basic as fuck. Like you're talented as shit, but in Black people world, you basic. So,
in Black people world,
in Black people world, it's for real, because like, oh, you can sing and you can rap and you can play instruments. Like, cool. Like, okay, like that's fucking. It's you're expected to do that. If you're a Black producer, 9 times out of 10, you're expected to play multiple instruments and have an ear for it. And a lot of them can sing, and they just don't do it because like they're on the production side. Like it's just like a normal for them to be able to do all that stuff. Whereas there's this belief where that like you have to package because of fucking which these tests or these polls, they don't take into account context, but because of these out of context polls, they feel like they have to take a Taylor Swift or some of these artists that have a skill or something very specific. Like I think Taylor was like the guitar, for example, and her lyrics, in the beginning, her lyrics were better. What she's becoming, who she is or who she was, is two different people. But like they got to package them. Why? Because white people prefer this. And it's like, well, do y'all believe that because of a poll, or do you like have numbers to back this up? Like, where y'all basing this off of? We just know because this poll right here. because of numbers here. Because of, until then, you got like for example, a Kevin Hart, who you would have assumed white people wouldn't understand his comedy, but then he became the most famous superstar comedian, probably the first ever like super duper star comedian with using his black experiences from growing up in Philly as a crux of that. So it's like, give people the opportunity to be represented and get the credit for it, and black people wouldn't just go to see some shit just because a black person was in it. Like we're just so like it was such a rarity, and it can be, especially for the older generation. I think it's such a rarity. Like nobody's going to see Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse or the last two Spider-Man cartoons because Miles Morales is black. That's a huge part of his character, but that's not why people think it's one of the best movies ever made. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, hey, look at what so many people said about this election. They're like, sorry, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris just because she's a woman or just because she's Indian or black or whatever it is. Like, that's not enough.
Whatever she is that day. Yeah, whatever. Literally whatever she is. But that was to me, like, her losing was amazing. I'm telling you, I had my faith restored in humanity. And it wasn't because I supported Trump, because I voted for Jill Stein. However, I was like, if Kamala wins, that means you can just tell people whatever. Like,
can you imagine?
It just would have said
I had the same thought, Niko. I was like, if nothing else, this just shows me that literally we are a bunch of brain dead, like lemmings who will believe anything. Like, that is the most concerning.
As a black person, as a black person involved in politics, like who's been like on the ground, right? Like, I'm in socialist circles, I'm in communist circles or leftist circles, or even some like liberal left-leaning circles, and I still converse with conservatives and stuff like that. But as a person who's on the ground, I know for a fact, I know who fucking uplifted Kamala. Everybody wants to vote for her because she's black, but it wasn't a black person who selected her. It was that same white supremacy apparatus that you fucking despise. But because they put a black face out there, because they put a her or a Cory Booker or a Hakeem Jeffries, or whatever the fuck they like to put out there, like, you fell for it again. Like, how many times are we gonna fall for this shit? That's what it felt like. With Obama, we got caught off guard, man. Also, like, Kamala is not Obama. That motherfucker's charismatic. I hate him so much because I forget I hate him every time he talks. Like, I hate it.
Actually,
hate it. He's like, I'm like, damn, he's so charismatic, man.
He's a genius orator, and he is so charismatic. I know. But then when I listen to what he says, I'm like, this guy is so full of shit. But like, also, I'm drawn it. But but like,
lately he's been he's not as smooth as because that's because history is catching up with him.
Right.
The self-contradictions are catching up with him. And you can only orate your way out of that, so much before people start to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like but with Kamala, if she would have won based off of her pitching her blackness to people, also while simultaneously offering literally zero to black people, like
horrible.
That would have said a horrible, like horrible. So for women, for example, she went hard for the whole women thing, and she even acted like she was going to produce policies, which was weird because she like, what the fuck was you gonna do? Like, she kept talking about abortion. Like, you have zero control over that. I don't know why you keep talking about it.
No, and she lied about things that wouldn't happen.
That would have happened exactly. Like, Trump was gonna take everybody to board. Like, what? That's
when did that happen? Okay, I have a fun little game for you. In the spirit of all this, let's pick stocking stuffers for Kamala, Trump, and Biden. I already have some ideas.
A defibrillator for Biden.
What are they getting? I was going to say like NyQuil, like just
NyQuil. No, Kamala need NyQuil, or a bottle of Jose, or Don Julio, one of the two.
Kamala needs NyQuil.
For Trump, spray tan for sure.
I was gonna say a mirror, like a compact mirror, because like, what does he love more than himself?
Boy, look. All day. Trump. That's why I tell people all the time. I'm like, y'all. I said Trump don't really work for anybody but himself. I'm like, there are people who might be a means to an end for him, but like, even when it comes to like Israel, like he might be bad on the issue. But I'm like, y'all think that they're like he's a Zionist. I'm like, no, he's not a Zionist. They're like, what do you mean? He said, no, he might like Israel, so long as Israel's not a problem or standing in the way of getting something he wants. That's what it comes down to. Like, if I say he's America first, until it needs to be Saudi Arabia first. If Saudi Arabia has something that he wants, he's like anti-Sharia law until it's time to like kiss Saudi Arabia's ass and then give them serious oil. Like it's whatever's most convenient for his ego at the time. That's what he's going to do, and which is an important distinction when you're talking about analyzing politics, because you need to understand the motivations behind people's actions. Because like he had imaginary beef with Kim Jong-un before he even got elected the last election, and then all of a sudden, like they're fucking making world peace.
No, all
How do you
of
predict
them
like that?
All of them.
Like,
what did you make of him at the Notre Dame with Prince William and Zelensky and everybody, the line of handshakes? Did you see that footage?
No, I did not see it.
So he's not even our sitting president yet. Yes, he's not even our sitting president yet. And it's like all these world leaders, but basically like I'm talking, like I said, literally Prince William to Zelensky, and they all stand up and they're like so excited and shake his hand all firmly. And Joe Biden wasn't even there. He was in nap time. And Joe Biden was like in the janitor's closet, as far as I know. But I just thought like it was just, he's not
probably
even
got lost on the
yet.
way. He probably got lost on the way. But there is something. So this time around is something different happening.
Yeah.
Where last time it was like a trend for world leaders to not take Trump seriously, and
yeah.
And I don't know, like I can't. I guess they in their mind they're thinking like they know something that we don't know about how he got elected. Like as far as like our repercussion of how he got elected. Because like him winning, I thought would have just been like, okay, they're going to react the same way they always react. They're going to be over the top. And it's like, I'm like, hold up. They just say Macron met with Trump and Zelensky to try and end it. Like that shit don't sound like a proper headline. And it turned out it was true.
Like, they do not. Mine, just from watching it, I mean, it's funny, Niko, because when the first person who sent it to me, I was like, is this AI? Because you're just like, what are all these like just so like obviously respecting him and the whole thing. And I'm like,
yeah,
so basically
the total opposite.
I'm like, so basically they don't want to get fucked with is the moral of the story.
Yeah,
like,
and they think that he has a mandate. They feel like he has a mandate that they can't, and they're not going to be. And also, you just also witness every single type of effort that it's literally possible in the U.S. system to try and keep him from being in the Oval Office again. They watched it be weaponized against him, and it didn't work. He still fucking won, and he made history while doing so. And so it's not even, to me, it's not even just a Trump thing. It's like now they have to respect everybody in his circle, because they're like, it's something that it's a movement that he's built, and we don't have anything to counter that shit at the moment with our neoliberal globalism side of it. So we got to respect him because he don't got, and the next 4 years, he ain't got shit to lose. So like, that's one thing you don't want to mess with. A billionaire with the ego that large, that does have something to prove to some degree, but does not have shit to lose. Mm-hmm. Like you don't want to mess with him.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
That's a factor.
So true.
That's why he's so, once again, he's somewhat unpredictable. And for a person that's like observed political history, the greatest secrets come out and the most change is made in the middle of political chaos. Because people come in to fill that vacuum of power. People come in and introduce their new ideas. People slip up. There's not that level of continuity that you had from like the Bill Clinton years until the Obama years. There was a level of continuity that protected that level of continuity, that system really of continuity protected Epstein. That's how he got off for so long. Right? But then when Trump came in, he was putting in judges that some people didn't know. He was like, he gave people a level of, like his administration to some degree, the outsiders, of a level of confidence that they may not have had, because they're like, man, shit, they might, these people from the establishment might not like it, but maybe if I suggest it to Trump, he might like it because his base likes it. Right. So like that put a wrench in the system, and somehow all of a sudden we find, Epstein shit really comes out and is investigated in a way that probably would not have happened in the past. Because I watched this interview with this guy who basically explained he was the guy who originally was asked to do the Oklahoma City bombing because he was an ex-CIA asset. And he said, fuck no, like I'm not going to be part of that shit. And that's when he started realizing all the crazy shit that was going on in the government and how they're actually working against our interests. He was asked to do the Oklahoma City bombing because of the files that were in that building, that were moved to that building. Because he was also part of a case that was going to expose the government for all the shit they had did to the soldiers going to Desert Storm. They had injected them with a bunch of bullshit because of the nuclear depleted uranium that we had given Iraq before that was being used against us. So they were just pumping people full of shit, and they were going sterile. Then on top of that, Bill Clinton had corrupted the DEA and the ATF, and he had all the evidence, and a lot of that evidence was also in the Oklahoma City building. So all that shit was moved, and I believe the case got dismissed because all the evidence blew up with that building. And this guy said the only reason that he was brave enough to come out was because he didn't vote for either Hillary or Trump. He said, but if Hillary would have won, you would have never heard the story because she would have retaliated.
100. Well,
he got out of jail. He was in jail, and I think he got out because the judges, it wasn't her judges anymore. Because Bush, Bill, Obama, all of them basically had the same field of judges and attorney generals.
I saw, and Trump's been talking about this, but I saw a new clip of him last night promising to expose all of these files when it comes to JFK, 9/11, Epstein.
I hope he does. Stop bullshitting.
I literally same. I am on the edge of my seat, but I wondered last night how much is he placating us, and how much will it still somewhat be? I mean, they keep with this Doge, they keep promising full transparency, which I'm like salivating over, but I thought last night, like, is it still gonna be within the bounds of like, here's some info, but like watered down, not the full balls to the wall,
It's so hard to know. Like, so with Doge, for example, I don't have much faith in Doge. I'm sorry, like, how I feel about Elon Musk, but on top of that, Elon Musk will generally do what is in his best interest. So if for whatever reason it's in his best interest to do something that opposes Trump, he will do it. Like that opposes Trump's trajectory, rather. His decisions, what he would like to see done, he will do it, and he will try whatever he can to convince Trump that it's for the best. And you can only be an expert in so many things, and Trump is not necessarily an expert in government bureaucracy. He's hoping Elon and Vivek will kind of curve that and help him in that regard. But I just don't see it. I don't see it really working out because Elon got what he got with government's help. I don't know why everybody he talk about government efficiency. The only reason fucking Tesla didn't go bottom up is because the U.S. government kept giving him a shitload of subsidies to survive and kept giving him exclusivity when it comes to the primary parts of an electric vehicle. So like, because he was also in the midst of doing other things for the government that people weren't aware of, where he was contracting with the Pentagon. Like with SpaceX, for example. So I would like to believe that like Doge is going to be. I have more faith in the RFK like health shit.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Doge.
Niko, I know you're hating on my Elon, my autistic guardian's character. Talk about his autism.
He's on. I keep telling he's on the other side, man. He's on that side where it's just like you get used, and you just like are so happy to receive this adulation and love, like that you just keep leaning more into this character that everybody wants you to be because it's benefited you. But eventually, like he tried to step out of that role for one time. I remember what he said he was gonna. Was it SpaceX that he said he was gonna sell? I believe it was SpaceX. He said he was gonna. I'm done with it
because he was Tesla.
Was it Tesla?
I'm pretty.
It was one of the two where like he made this announcement that he was gonna be done with it, and the stock for the other one just plummeted, and they have nothing to do with each other. And it was almost like, yeah, we're just letting you know, bitch, you're gonna do it. You're gonna keep doing what we told you to do. And he changed his mind. And that's like, how do you think that those type of billionaires become so wealthy? Literally, he didn't invent the electric vehicle, nor did he like invent Tesla. It was a hostile takeover of a company with the help of the U.S. government. That's how he got Tesla. That's actually how he got Twitter as well. That's what SpaceX is. It's was interconnected with Google. You couldn't buy, so even to this day, I think you can't buy SpaceX stock. You have to buy Google stock because it's Google that owns SpaceX, and everybody knows Google is CIA 100%. So with Jeff Bezos, Amazon was for all intents and purposes a failure as a business. Then he got a shitload of government money. Shitload. He got that $600 million to buy Washington Post. He got it directly from the CIA. Like then he becomes the wealthiest man in the world, even though his business was a failure.
Yeah.
That to me is like the problem with capitalism, quote unquote, as far as it's concerned in the US, because I've yet to see a circumstance in my lifetime where the in a world that's, or at least in a country that's supposed to be a meritocracy, that the meritorious win. Because if you're telling me if I'm willing to sell out, then I can become I could be worth $80 billion, like Mark Zuckerberg. Like, even though this motherfucker didn't Facebook was not even marketable at the time. They had no way to earn money, and you worth $80 billion.
I thought we have input here. I thought there were redemption stories of American greatness. No, I have a soft spot in my heart for Elon because he's the genius Einstein of our time. And I also love that he just does not give a fuck. And I know people are really like,
does he not give a fuck? Does he really not give a fuck though?
I think so because here's why. People are really skeptical and hostile. Not, the media, whatever, certain, government officials of say Twitter, his Twitter takeover, right? Like, oh, this is just one more, big, a tech lord trying to monopolize and take over, And I'm about halfway through. It's a commitment, but his was what a lot of people don't know is that he actually always had, obviously, was drawn toward like technology and problem solving and all that and the logistics, but also the humanitarian side of philosophy and why people think how they do and all that. And I thought that was so interesting. And so when it talks about how he ultimately decided to make the decision with Twitter and really wanting to preserve that digital public sphere, I was like, I could totally see that. And so I don't know. I don't think it was as opportunistic as people. I think he really saw a problem and was just like, fuck this. And again, as someone who always was so he says, was gravitated toward also like psychology, philosophy. I was like, this totally makes sense. And he was bullied as a kid.
You know what they say about psychology? They say if you want to be a master in psychology, or if you want to get your master in psychology and become a psychologist, it's usually because you're the fucking crazy one. And you're trying to actually understand yourself and why you make the decisions you do.
I.e. Freud. No.
I'm just saying, it's but
maniacal though.
Because the way, like, the way that he perceived the problem is his truth. Maybe that could be the case. But there's like, so if you're going to talk about the philosophy, like moral philosophy, and why people do the things they do and how they, like, you have to be self-aware enough to know, like, yeah, Twitter was a problem, but like, why does that make it your problem to solve? And are you even accounting for your biases? Because my problem with Elon Musk isn't that he messes up. It's his unwillingness to admit when he gets it wrong, which is more often than anybody is willing to admit, like in his camp of worshipers. There's like people who like him that will admit it, but like there's some like worshipers that refuse to acknowledge things that he does wrong. Like his involvement in DARPA, his like letting SpaceX and the U.S. government and the Pentagon, that he's bitching about they're spending too much money on the military budget, and then like, but you didn't have a problem when they was when you made them a weapon that can get anywhere in 2 hours and fuck everybody up. Like, you weren't bitching then when it was making you the richest man in the world. So if he would be willing to acknowledge these things, I would be less skeptical about his intentions. But when somebody is unwilling to acknowledge how they have evolved in their perception of the world and the things that they've been involved in up until this point, especially when you're the richest man in the world, it just makes me too skeptical of your intentions, or at least it makes me skeptical of your self-awareness, because maybe you're blinded.
Self-awareness. For me, it's the hypocrisy that happens with all of these guys, especially as it as it pertains to free speech, right? Which is my whole thing. So with Elon, I did call him out for this at the time, and Piers Morgan did this too, right? Like, Elon takes over Twitter to preserve free speech, all this. And if you remember, when he had staffers critical of him, like putting them on probation, remember, it's like, where'd it go? Pierce Morgan, same thing. Like he was on this whole thing of like cancel culture, and he had a disagreement, or someone on a panel or on his show was saying something he didn't like. And I don't know if you remember this, and he literally got up and walked off. And I remember at the time on my show being like, well, what happened to your whole fight for free speech? Isn't that their free speech? So it's, that's to me where it's like, okay, so yours is okay, but others like free speech is free speech, no matter how you slice it. So
exactly, that's how I feel like. So my friend Garland Nixon has been banned off of. He's became ridiculously popular right around the time Elon Musk bought Twitter, and he's been banned off of Twitter almost within weeks of Elon Musk, and he can't. And it's like the weirdest ban. He just doesn't have access to his account, but his account is active. So he can't, they won't respond to his emails. The support won't respond to him. This was after he went viral for getting suspended to begin with, because he criticized the Secretary of State for something. Like he just made a joke, and like he got suspended. And then after Elon Musk like got berated by people, he unsuspended Garland. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, he got suspended again. Like, but it was like this weird unofficial suspension. And I'm like, then you said that there was going to be like a whole process that we go through to justify suspending people, especially with that large of a platform who've already verified their identity. Like you said, there's going to be a process, and you're not keeping your word. Like even the fact that, I'm not like the biggest fan of Alex Jones, but why did it take Alex Jones so long to get reinstated? Why are you taking a Twitter poll about that? Right? Like that shouldn't be a fucking Twitter poll. That should be, did he break the rules?
Interesting. I forgot about that with Alex Jones. That's right.
There are a lot of people like that. I want to say Dr. Peter McCullough. It took a while for him to get back on.
Right. What did he do? A poll? I mean, I suppose
he did a fucking
one
poll.
Could argue that it's democracy, power to the people to vote and decide. However, if the bottom line is free speech, and that's what it is. So
did he break a law? And if he did break that law, like, did you go through the proper channels to prove that and explain to him in legal terms how he broke that law and why he's being suspended? Or did you just continue? Was it just a continuation of what had already taken place before you got there? Because he was randomly selecting who he wanted to allow back. It was basically, well, how much do they kiss my ass?
Right.
Which is like, like that's not shit. That's gonna be the fucking.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, why are you doing a Twitter poll about Alex Jones? Motherfucker, did he break the rules? And at the time, there was no evidence that he had broken the rules. And that was a whole thing. And I said, like, they're just doing the test to see if they can get away with it. I said, because they suspended him off of every single. Remember, they had like removed Alex Jones from all the platforms, and even took his app off the App Store. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. He broke all of y'all's agreements like at the same time on the same day. That's kind of suspicious, don't you think? And like, because it was just they were running a test to see if they get away with it, and they did. And so, like, there shouldn't be a poll done. It's like, if you believe in free speech, you believe in free speech. And
exactly. That's my big issue. It's like, do it or don't.
Even the people that he chooses to boost, like, I don't feel like he should be engaging in signal boosting, or one-sided signal boosting. I also don't. I feel like if he endorsed somebody, cool. I just I'm not really comfortable with the idea that he was going so hard for one presidential candidate over another. Like I wouldn't have been comfortable, obviously, if he did it with Kamala. I had a problem when Zuckerberg was doing it for Biden and Hillary.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. But like, he went over the top, and at that point, now we know that the algorithm, because of his influence, is his platform. I mean, he already had extreme influence over the platform before it was his platform, but now, like, the algorithm is now being geared towards one candidate, and that affects what people see. So if I'm not elogiating or talking about him, people see less of what I'm talking about and more of whatever the fuck you're talking about.
The whole thing is so garbage pail, and I will tell you this because I am getting cock blocked on the regular on Instagram, YouTube. I actually just had a shadow ban lifted off of my Instagram. You know that picture of Hunter Biden in his tidy whities? That's everywhere. It's like in the New York, it's every mainstream media. Okay, I posted it to my story a year ago. which goes away anyway, and you delete it. I delete it. I just had the shadow ban lifted from that. And so my account couldn't be shown and on followers. Okay. Every other day I'm getting things on YouTube. This is, social issues, quote, election, this, it's something every day. I'm just like, well, I don't know.
I got banned
from arbitrary.
I got banned from making money on Instagram. Because of something that I had posted like a year and some change before. And it was the justification was bullshit because I'm like, hold on, you're banning me from posting a screenshot of a mainstream media article?
Thank you.
That's what it was.
Thank you. Yes.
Mainstream media article. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, and it was like, y'all decided to do this right now. It was like, if a post would go viral, they're like, we're gonna stop that shit. Like right before the election, I was actually gonna simulcast on Instagram, and I found out apparently 4 or 5 days before that I had been banned from live streaming on Instagram, and I didn't even get notification about it.
They didn't even have the decency. I didn't even get a carrier pigeon. What? But don't worry, if it's like an Instagram model with a G-string showing her pap smear, basically it's all we'll see on our feed. And I'm sorry. Like,
that's so true, right? Because they tell you that that's actually against the rules, but
exactly.
No, it's not apparently.
Well,
so
the crazy thing is, Niko, they claimed my Hunter Biden picture was for quote nudity, like he's in tighty whities, and I'm like, why am I in this Instagram model cervix every other day? Like I don't unwillingly. Like what are we talking about? Like,
not for nudity. That's crazy. Like, that's the only thing I don't ever see anybody get banned for on fucking social. Because people will go out of their way to post stuff to their stories, like that are more nude, so that they don't get suspended for posting it to their actual account. You know what I'm saying? Like I see that all the time. So I don't know why that would make them suspend. That's so crazy. And also people post stuff shit with less than their underwear on all the time.
Oh, I know. It's all such trash. I know.
I have a question for you because there's this Luigi Mangione situation.
Oh my God,
is getting wild.
It's wild.
Like full disclosure, I actually believe that this particular guy is actually getting framed, but I do feel like the reaction to him is like worth talking about because like the other day,
I agree.
SNL brought him up and the crowd started cheering. The crowd started cheering.
Wait, Niko, you keep surprising me. I thought you would be a Luigi Mangione fan.
I mean, like, I don't know if he did it.
If it was him.
I don't know if I'd be a fan, but I wouldn't like. I don't feel bad for the CEO. Like I don't feel like I don't care. Like,
Point proven.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm like, damn, that sucks. You probably shouldn't have been a fucking prick, and this wouldn't even had opportunity. You wouldn't even had an opportunity to be put in the situation. Like,
okay, here's my thing though: is this just animalistic? As fucked up as the healthcare system is. Mm-hmm. Is this just animalistic behavior to go and shoot someone with a family, all this, even if what he did was crooked, whatever, to just shoot them dead in the street. And then people are, again, if this is like a maniacal genocidal dictator, I could see that, but it's like this random CEO. And so
but to
I
some,
feel
but
like
to some
the glorification
people, the impact,
is misplaced.
So for some people, the impact of what he has done, not just him, but the system itself, but him uniquely, because United Healthcare just did some uniquely fucked up shit. That's also the other part of it for this past year or so. But like the impact of what he done is that of a maniacal dictator. Like but your decision making has killed people. It has cost lives, and those lives didn't get a story. They didn't get to make front page news. They didn't get a bunch of YouTubers covering it and mainstream media talking about it.
Absolutely.
And it happens so often. Like I did a segment the other day talking about the Views coverage. Do you know what this woman said? She was like, I know that 500,000 Americans go bankrupt every year because of healthcare. I know that there's 1-year-olds with disabilities who can't even get a hospital bed because health insurance won't cover it. I know that people who are dying every day, thousands of people die every day because of the health. And you know what she says? I know all that. But like, if we allow this, then what's next? Like, what elite dies next? That was her fucking conclusion.
Right.
All of that.
That's not even my
concern. It's so casual. Like all these people are suffering. But what if another elite gets killed?
To me, it's not even about the right. That's not even my thing is the glorification. Like, is this like this kid? Some people argue he was a spoiled, entitled, rich brat, which was kind of refreshing to hear, honestly, from the glorifying and, you know, the heroism of it. But is this the best way to resolve a dispute? So it's like almost like this kid was very smart. He was valedictorian. Like, he could have done so many things as just shooting somebody in cold blood. And then we glorify that violence the way.
So by the way, so because of all the things that he had achieved previously, I don't actually believe it was him. I just don't feel like somebody with that amount of opportunity would throw their life away.
It's the eyebrows too. Did you see?
Yeah, that eyebrows a big ass difference. Yeah, that shit. The whole bridge is like not even
that. Or everyone's like, why did he have a spa day when he was being like? How did he suddenly have a glow up?
Like, they were planning the fact they were marching him out there in tactical gear. Like, what the fuck, bro?
The whole thing.
And Eric Adams was behind him, and he was like, I had to look him in the eye and tell him, you can't do this act of terrorism in New York City. Like, you're not gonna do. Like, I'm like, this is like the PR campaign against him seems to be more important than figuring out if he's actually guilty or not, because this is weird assumption of guilt. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm not really buying the story of, yeah, man, I know that it's been a busy week for me, but I'm not gonna forget to take my manifesto to McDonald's in Canada. I'm not gonna do that. I'm telling you. Like, what the fuck? This is weird.
I had a political strategist on my show actually right before you, and he said the same. He's like, I'm sorry, like, if this was just some disgruntled, like, these things like, why would just the pieces of, and then the manifesto, and then did you see, I was going to send you this too, Niko, and then I was like, he's going to think I'm full-blown deranged, but did you see the thing with the numbers that lined up with the Bible verse? He had like, I think it's 286. It was this really specific number, and he had 286 Twitter posts. He had 286 in his, like, all these things were 286 in like the health code, something he had. Like, it's really, if I find it, I'll send it to you. But I'm not tinfoil Hattie, and I was like, wait,
it's too much.
What? This is too much before the holidays. Like, I'm sorry, but
it's like there's so many people. Like, I just don't, and I also don't believe in the. I don't believe in the justice system's ability to get the right person the majority of the time so quickly. But also the fact that if they did get the right person, which I don't really believe they did, but let's just say if they did, like, that's also a part of the problem that people have with the system, because it's like, wow, look at how much I value this life. And look at what lengths you're going to in order to prove, like, we can't allow this to happen. So we're going to make a whole show out of it. Why? Because CEO, we don't want people to be punished after, like, or we don't want people to face these type of consequences for actions that they've done. It's like, okay, so like, what are you going to do to resolve that? So what are you going to do to resolve this? That's my question. I don't care, for me, whether or not he did it. I don't care what he gets punished. Like, I don't care what Luigi's punishment is. How are we going to resolve the system that made this man want to do this because he felt like because everybody keeps saying, like, don't we think like I was animalistic? I was like, okay, so like, what's the solution? Because on the View, they were like, what? Well, we have to just use our system. I'm like, you mean like for the View, in their case, we tried that, motherfucker. We tried the Bernie Sanders of the world, Tulsi Gabbard of the world, people who try to introduce universal health care. You know what you said? You said, fuck them. You said, vote for Hillary, vote for Kamala, vote for Joe Biden, vote for, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all really said, y'all attacked Trump when he said that he was going to introduce universal health care because they were bullshit on the health care bill when he was a president. Like, he was like, fuck it, if y'all don't figure this shit out, I'm just going to introduce universal health care. He used it as a threat, and they got mad at him for that shit. Like, so now it's like, when we did try to have a candidate that fixed this problem, y'all told us to ignore them. When we tried to hold the people accountable who would not, because y'all told us that we got to vote for Biden, or we got to vote for Hillary, we got to vote for this person. Then when we try to hold them accountable for not doing what they said they were going to do, not fixing this problem, y'all attacked us for it. So then it's like, okay, so, and when we try to hold the AOCs accountable, the people who are in power, who actually had the ability to affect the policy at the time over the years, were in direct position to affect the policy. When we tried to hold them accountable, y'all just attacked us for it. And so, like, what do you expect? Like, what's the other option at that point?
Well, what do you expect? And I would also wonder, this sounds so conspiratorial, but like, what are you hiding or trying to keep moving along? Because let's be real. I love how you're like, let's look at the crux of this and solve it from the deep-rooted issue. But we both know that this is going to be a flash in the pan social justice warrior thing, and then it'll be the next thing. You know what I mean? And that, like, I look at it on a cultural issue.
It could be, but it's in New York, man.
I don't know. I mean, you see all these, like, to me, what's really crazy too is, like I said, this like hunky martyr hero, and I've seen post after post after meme. I saw a video of this.
They should have picked some ugly. They should pick the ugly.
They were right, like how he is just like so hot. They literally may as well revive like Tiger Beat and put him on the cover. Like they're just like his hero. I saw a video the other day of this Disney themed party, and they show him on the screen, and it's like the beat drops, and everyone's like, yeah, you know. I swear to God.
What?
And I'm just thinking to myself, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I'm thinking to myself, like, and then it's going to be the next thing, and the next thing after that, and the next thing after that. Like,
see,
I don't know.
It usually functions like that. However, in this particular case, because this anti-PR campaign against them that they're waging, I don't know if it's going to be like that. And like, because you know how the corporate media and the powers that be just overcorrect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of course,
it's so bizarre. So the timing of it is also strange because like I said on my show the other day, it's super weird how like we just weren't. No one during the election talked about healthcare. The problems still were existing, which it was bizarre. It was the first election in a while where it was not a discussion. Even with the Obama, even after he introduced the ACA, it was discussing this. They discussed the problems with it at least and how to fix them and if they should be fixed. Like this is the first election when no one talked about it, and then out of nowhere, this motherfucker pop, and now everybody's talking about it. And it's like, wow, that's kind of crazy that this just happened. And it's like, it's because everyone is now talking about the problems with the healthcare industry and it's just like a level of apathy. Because I don't know if I really don't know that many people who were celebrating the CEO dying. However, I do know a lot of people who really did not give a single fuck. They're like, oh, next story anyway. That they were ready to move on. And then what we saw was like the demonization of this kid and the assumption of guilt. That's what's the most, there's an assumption of guilt when discussing this suspect. And it's like they've already stopped their manhunt. We don't know, like, oh, we found a manifesto. Like, be full of shit. They full of shit.
I'm so sus on the whole.
You don't have an accomplice. Y'all stop all investigations. Now we're going straight to trial, and what if they find out that he's not guilty? Then what?
No, exactly. And to your point about getting to the root of it, you know, if oddly enough, this kind of brings us back to the beginning with the instant gratification culture, because we're so ADD. And what I noticed was these young people and kids, again, making this guy like their hero in this social justice war, almost the overcorrection, what you said of like, we're out with a vengeance for what cause of the day? Like, in my opinion, it's like why we saw these same people. I mean, you know how I feel about the Israel issue. We do not have to get into it right now, but it's like we saw the same people glorifying and loving Hamas, like barbaric terrorists. It's like, but again, in the name of like social and I feel like that's what's happening with this, and then it's going to be something else and something else and something else, and it's so. And
so then that comes to like, that's when it comes. So for me, that's when it breaks down to when you have somebody driven to the extreme. That, well, to bring it back full circle, when you have somebody who is unable to find their balance because of circumstances outside of their control, because of a system that's so corrupt, they feel powerless within it. Like, at what point is it that person's fault? Like, at what point do we not stop blaming the symptoms for like the cause of the disease, like for all the problems that are caused by like, I can't keep blaming. Well, no, I can't blame chemo, but just as an example, like, you can't blame somebody being bald and like, it just sucks that they're just really bald. I just wish that there was something that could be done about that. It's like, well, no, they have cancer. We got to cure the cancer for them to stop going to chemo, for them to stop experiencing these symptoms. And it's like, they don't want to fix in our country. You know, I would say, unfortunately, in most of the modernized world, most of the Western world, there's a cancer in our society, and it goes deeper than the U.S. healthcare system and healthcare system in general. Deeper than the pharmaceutical industry, deeper than the military industrial complex. There is something there, and it's And people are tired of pretending that it's not. They've pretended for so long. And I think the pandemic was a big wake up call for so many people. They're like, hold up, these motherfuckers literally don't care if we die. That was a message that was sent.
Well, you know what it is power and control. And we saw that evidently with again, what's the better example than we couldn't leave our homes. We're forced to do this, and Gavin Newsom, this guy's whining and dining, the mayor of Chicago at the time, like out at a rave party. I'm like, okay, I've only been in solitude for 6 months.
Can't tell me I can't. I'm not allowed to go to work. Like not that. Like it's my choice. I'm not allowed to go to work in some situations.
Yes.
And it's like, but we'll make a decision about if we want to give you money or not. Like we're gonna have to debate about it. But we're also gonna have to give corporations a shitload of money. Like if we do decide to give you money, and we still haven't even made the decision of whether or not we're gonna help you. Just to let you know. It's like, hold on, but all this money, I was told that I'm paying this money so that if something like this fucking happens, then we're all good. Because I've been giving y'all motherfuckers money out my paycheck for my entire life. Yeah, no, that's just to make sure that we can get our raises. Like, that's basically what we were told. In Brazil, everybody was forced to stop working. Okay, cool. But you know what was a big difference here? Everybody got a paycheck. Everybody.
There
was not even a fucking debate about it. Because like, well, we're going to stop working. How are we gonna not give y'all the money? We can't tell y'all not to make money, like forcibly stop you from making money and then not help you get through that period, and then you still have to feel the consequences of that. That's ludicrous. That is insane. It's like insane.
It is. It's
psychopathic shit.
It is. And that's why both of us are excited. We talked about before the RFK thing, right? Because same thing. It's like my eyes have really, because this isn't my wheelhouse. And ever since he really kind of came out with all hit, like my eyes have just been open. And even I never really thought about it this way, but it's like, right, when you look at pharmaceuticals, why do you notice they never ever focus on a cure? Or preventative. It's always let's get you sick. And
no, it's not preventative, it's reactionary.
Exactly. And then we're going to help you with these quick fit, whatever it is. And that once you see it, you can't unsee that.
You cannot. It's scary. Like that. I actually started learning the most about the pharmaceutical industry whenever I got into marijuana, because I was really trying to understand, like when I saw like marijuana was being used to help cure cancer or fight cancer cells. I'm like, there's no fucking way that they just accidentally got this so wrong. How do you go from like, how did we go from like marijuana is going to kill your brain cells to actually know marijuana cures cancer cells? Like, how the fuck did you get that wrong with all that research and development? Unless it was intentional, because like you did do all the research and development and you learn this could be a problem if people realize the full potential of this plant. And then you find out in that particular case, it was like 3 industries that were principally involved in influencing policies. It was the tobacco industry for obvious reasons, because of cigarettes. And it was the alcohol industry because of the same reason, right? But then it was the pharmaceutical industry, because you could smoke and solve fucking a problem that would take 3 medications 3 times a day to solve. And they did not want that to interrupt with like, because this is what the 80s and the 90s, and so like pain medication and all that shit was becoming more and more popular. The housewives are taking anxiety medication, Percocet, and all that stuff was becoming more popular. And the pharmaceutical industry did not want marijuana to come in and disrupt that. And so like they basically paid for a decades-long smear campaign. And like I feel like it's almost egregious to the point where there should be like lawsuits against everybody that participated, because how many lives could have been saved? They allow you can smoke. They don't drug test for marijuana in the NBA anymore. They don't drug test. They stopped this year, I want to say, in the NFL. And the reason why is because the NFL players finally came together like, yo, people are getting fucking hooked on pills because they're hurt. Motherfuckers with NFL, they playing every week. There's not a period during the year they're not hurt. And it's like they found out that weed dramatically helps the recovery process. And you don't get fucking physically addicted to pills that are killing you. So like that, but like, so how many people got addicted to pills because they were lying about marijuana? How many people have died because of it? How many people became heroin addicts because they couldn't just get a toke of weed? Right.
No, it's insane. Remember the whole Joe with ivermectin at the time with COVID and the Joe Rogan horse dewormer? I took it when I had COVID.
I took that shit too. I took
I mean, who knows? Did it help? I don't know.
Normal to take it, actually. I don't know. It was weird when they made it weird, actually. I remember it was a popular drug.
But that's how much they get in your head, because even beforehand, I was like, oh, I don't know, this. And doctors were like, like, this is used for on the daily for common things. And they just so get in your head. I mean, did it help dramatically? Who knows? But I know that I'm not going to let them tell me.
Yeah, it like when they started with the horse dewormer shit, bro, I was like, hold up.
Like, then now I should actually try it. Now I should take it because you're telling me not to.
I said it was crazy. So if you have animals, the first thing I thought, I'm like, okay, so it works on animals. So does fucking ibuprofen. It doesn't mean I'm gonna stop taking ibuprofen because my dog takes it too. Like, that's dumb. Like, the logic behind it, but it was a marketing campaign, or really an anti-marketing campaign against. It was a marketing campaign against ivermectin, against hydroxychloroquine, and it was specifically because of what we just talked about. It was because of what they wanted to promote. They could not let billions of dollars go down the drain for a medication that was not and what made it even worse is, like, you know, that I can't remember, it's hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin isn't patented in the US. So it's like it's a drug that isn't, like, I think it's just like France or some shit like that. So it's like the US wouldn't even make any money off of it. So it's like $5 or some shit. Mm-hmm. They weren't gonna let that happen. They're like, no, this is our opportunity. We got to make billions of dollars. 100%. It makes so much money that by the time you finally get a chance to sue them, that's a cost of doing business to them. They already expected to get sued after all this shit goes down. They already put that money to the side. They asked for that in the bill.
It was personified in what would have happened if Kamala Harris won. Same thing. Like, the fact that they were able and are able to not only brainwash, but also make that narrative the holier than thou moral standard is what's insane. Like, brainwash, fine, but then take it to the extra step of, like, you know, everything else, especially with the like, now RFK is this vaccine kook, this, that, the other thing. It's like, he never said that. He's like, my kids have been vaccinated. You know, it's wild. But
his lawyer is trying to get the polio and a couple of other vaccines license temporarily suspended. And I was seeing all these headlines about RFK, and I'm thinking, hold up, RFK's trying to do this? And then I was like, start reading the article. I'm like, hold on, dude, it's his lawyer and he's not even collaborating with RFK to do this. It's literally just a lawyer using his ability as a lawyer to try and get a policy passed and advocating for it. I'm like, this has nothing to do with RFK. Why the fuck do they keep putting his face up here? That's it. That's the type of shit that, like, makes me like, like that. See, that's why. So I found out recently, I'm really big about, like, when my child's allowed to take vaccines and which vaccine he's allowed to take. There's some vaccines that, like, his ass he will wait. He can wait to take this. They wanted to give him the polio vaccine really early on, but we don't leave the house that often. So there's that. We don't have, like, none of our family members have any history of polio or anything like that. And so I'm like, it was a risk assessment situation, because I'm like, if there was, like, a history of disease like that, like when we were kids, which I made sure to check with everybody to make sure, then that's a different conversation. No one which is crazy, no one on my wife's side of the family has ever had even, like, cancer. They live in the wood, the, like, rural fucking part of Brazil. They don't eat anything that they don't grow. And then no one has ever had anything beyond diabetes, but that was because that person lived away for a while and came back and they overindulged and they got it really young. So it was, like, literally her habits that caused it. But and then I found out too when I was like, okay, we might be able to do the polio. Let me find out which one they're giving. It turns out they were giving this one through the mouth. It was like a new one. I was like, hold up, that's weird. Why the fuck would they be giving this one? This is new. Where did they get this from? Do my research, because I felt like it became, like, really popular all of a sudden in Brazil for them to promote everybody taking vaccines all the time, and it was just, like, not a thing before. Turns out Brazil's government just went and bought a shitload of vaccines from pharmaceutical industry in the US.
Yep.
So I said, no. Let me do some more research about this polio vaccine before. And it turns out that Brazil had to stop giving. I already told them that he wasn't going to be allowed to take it to the mouth. So when they get the needle, like, that one, I would at least let him take. But I'm like, if you're going to give it to him to the mouth, I'm not giving them that one. So I don't really give a fuck how much you bitch at me about it. They're trying to make my wife feel bad about it. So I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't care. He's not taking it if that's the one you're going to try to give him. Turns out Brazil, because at least they're a little bit smarter than the US, they banned that. They do not give them to the mouth anymore because they were causing all the fucking symptoms that you get from polio.
Yeah.
They were causing paralysis. And I'm like, and my wife was like, oh my fucking God. And you knew. I was like, I told you. I said, you know, I was like, that was like a random change. And it's unnecessary. Like, why would you give that all of a sudden instead of doing it through the needle? You doing everything else with the fucking needle. Why change it up now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, so that's new. I said, if it's new, I said, the newer that shit is, the less likely it is to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, you know what? From now on, he get his vaccine when you say he gets them. Because she was going back and forth with me on it at first, not because she inherently trusts the Brazilian government, because she was under the same mindset that, like, oh, these are the same ones that the Brazilian government has been getting. And generally speaking, the pharmaceutical industry here is a lot more trustworthy than ours.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know, because they didn't make a big thing about it, that Brazil had bought a bunch of vaccines from the US. Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, yep, well, fuck that. I was like, he can take it when he gets older and when he's more developed, but I'm not about to pump my kid, my newborn, full of fucking. That just doesn't make any sense anyway. I don't really give a shit what nobody says.
Literally zero. Actually, Niko, funny enough, because we talked about her on my episode when you came on, but Candace Owens, did you see her whole thing about this? It's called Shot in the Dark.
No.
Oh my God, you have to check this out. And I've only seen bits and pieces, but she did this whole, I don't know, however, docu-series expose all on vaccines. And the snippets I did see was in line with it. Like, I was like, right. She's like, why am I giving a newborn hepatitis? Like, are they out having sex and sharing needles? Like, why am I? So you should check it out. Like,
I didn't take my first hepatitis shot until I was like 8 or 9.
It's wild.
Like, and they're like trying to give you to take it. Like, and oh, by the way, oh, no. I lied. I didn't take my first hepatitis shot until I was in the military. And funny story, I got asthma because of that shit. So in the military, they give you your first round of vaccines, then they take your blood to figure out what your blood type is and to see if you have any immunities. Then you get the second round. Yeah, I know. That's actually fucking stupid, because I go to take my second round after they find out I'm O negative and I have an immunity to hepatitis, which is dope. Cool. And she's like, oh, you can't take this. I said, what do you mean I can't take this? She's like, you're immune to hepatitis, so you don't need to take this. I'm like, okay, but like, what would happen if I take it? She's like, oh, it would probably give you problems. I said, this is our second round of medication. I already took it. She's like, oh, well, they shouldn't have gave it to you. Next thing you know, I get fucking asthma.
Literally, yes.
I was like,
yeah. When I got the COVID vaccine, I was like bedridden for 2 days. I had basically COVID.
Yeah.
And then once I got it, I had it. Like, I was just like, what happened? Though I thought stop the spread. Like, I had it gnarly. So you know, it's all,
like,
I'm definitely really, but I'm glad, in a way, I'm glad, because now it's like it had to almost happen for all of our eyes to be opened.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's a very good way to look at it.
I mean, wouldn't have. I would have gotten my kids vaccine. By the way, Niko, thank you for your service. I meant to say that earlier.
Oh, you're welcome. I was just a paralegal. I didn't deploy because I didn't believe in the war in Afghanistan, and they wanted me to go there, and I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not going there. But you know, I was like a mentor, so that was good.
Yeah, so that was good.
I was in for 3 years. I almost did the whole special forces. I almost did all the whole like special forces shit. Like, but I dislocated my shoulder and had some time for introspection. No. And but I decided that was not what was best for me. It was like, after I had some time to reflect, I was like, yeah, I don't really want to be a part of this shit, because I was looking at the way my family and my friends' parents were, or my friends' dads were being affected by being special forces, and like they're still dealing. I mean, I had so many divorces that happened after, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with when you figure out a lot of those special forces guys are really intelligent. They just wanted to, same type of shit. They just wanted to belong and matter. They were excluded, you know, very talented, but usually excluded. And when they finally become part of a team and something they feel like matters, it's very motivating to them. And they think that they're the good guys, because that's how they don't get all the briefings. They don't get all the facts going into any situation. And when you're in special forces, that's all you have time to process, is what you're dealing with at that moment. So what happens is a lot of them have realized, because of the age of information that we're in now, is that like they weren't on the right side of history, and the majority of the shit that they did, unfortunately, from like later on within like the 80s and the 90s a little bit, and maybe even the 70s to some degree, like a lot of the shit that they were doing, they were on the wrong side. And like they found out like, oh, the reason that we had this intel is because the problem that was caused that we're going to solve is a problem that we actually helped to create. Like, we're dealing with we're fighting the war in Afghanistan after 9/11 because, from an attack from Al-Qaeda, because we created Al-Qaeda. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had they wouldn't be an organization. They had, IEDs killed more soldiers than anything during the war in Iraq. Actually, I think Afghanistan too. And we taught them how to make the IEDs. It's called improvised explosive device. We taught them how to take random shit and make explosive out of it. That was U.S. military training that we taught them, and they use it against us. Like, you find out all the problems that you're going to resolve. Unfortunately, we help to create. So although people have like the most noblest of intentions a lot of the times when they go to the military, it's hard dealing with that after you've seen yourself as a hero for so long, especially special forces. So my best friend's dad he always has trouble grappling with that because he knows better. And then but it's hard for him because he got friends that died in front of him. You don't want to think about your friends dying for a cause that wasn't noble. You don't want to think about all the time you lost with your family for a cause that wasn't noble. So, I can appreciate people wanting to fight for their country because there's you want to protect your home. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody, I feel like that's like a feeling that everyone can relate to.
Absolutely.
But we have to, it's so important for us to hold accountable our government, or else how can you feel honorable serving under a Kamala Harris or a Joe Biden?
So well said.
You get what I'm saying? You can't, I'm like, damn, bro, you just said you don't fucking like or trust any of these people.
So well said.
You don't think your mission is connected to something that they he's a commander in chief. You feel me? So we gotta to feel pride, the pride that you should while serving. We gotta get our government in check. We just got to, so we can feel confident again. That's why recruiting numbers
well said.
Tanked. They're
so
tanked.
Well said.
We're going through a recession. They're like, bitch, I'll be recessing then. I'm gonna be a recessing ass motherfucker because I'm not joining the military. They will rather be poor, broke, and dumb. They don't give a shit. But that tells you just how far the level of patriotism has fallen in the US.
I was just gonna say that. I have hope though. I have hope though.
This next year,
maybe enough people, Niko. This is kind of actually because I was going to say, sadly, I have to bid you and the audience a farewell because your audience may love this. Your audience may appreciate this, but I'm having on an 80s Playboy centerfold cover girl on who her team reached me about coming on the show. I'm like, this will be fun.
That's crazy.
So she used to live in the Playboy mansion, the whole thing. But what I was going to say was a great way before I hop off is you talk about patriotism and our eyes being open to all of this stuff. And I really feel like this did all, whether it be COVID or the comment, all this stuff had to happen. And maybe it all this is so cheesy, but it has to almost fall apart for people to have enough of the bullshit to step up and come together and be okay, I want a government I can be proud of. I want a country I can be proud, to really rally and stand behind and not this.
That's so true.
Shit.
That is, look, I'm gonna tell you, so whenever people say patriotism in a lot of African countries or global countries in the global South, their definition of patriotism is different than ours. Their definition of patriotism is literally protecting what they have fought for, probably recently, against all these outside forces that are trying to corrupt them, infect them, overthrow their government. That their flag and what they fight for literally means their survival. Whereas that isn't necessarily the case for the U.S. And it used to feel like that. Because they marketed it so well.
I was going to say that earlier.
They oh man, you're fighting for freedom. And then Cat Williams encapsulated it so well in a fucking joke, which is crazy. He said, when the fuck did my freedom get in Iraq? How did it get over there? It's that's a good ass question. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And it's not just Iraq. We got overthrowing the Libyan government. People didn't find out that we had troops in the Syrian government in a Syrian country, or in a country of Syria, excuse me, until 2 years ago. But I've been telling people since 2014 we had troops in Syria because I know my friends deployed there, and they were lying. And Obama was lying to the public, saying that we didn't have any boots on ground there, that he was only droning the terrorist organizations. He just left out the part where we did have troops there, and also the terrorist organizations were fucking working for us. But I'll let you go ahead and get up out of here. Thank you so much, Taylor. I put the link to your YouTube, Talk to Me, Taylor, in the description. But tell everybody else where they can find you at.
Yes, talk to me, Taylor, on Instagram, YouTube. You know, if I'm not being shadow banned that day, it's any given day. You know, just like Kamala and her ethnic background that day, like you said, Niko. I mean, it just depends. But
Literally.
YouTube, like I said, Instagram, Spotify, Apple. And it's really conversations like this, none of the BS, really reverent fun, and guests from, you know, entertainment, media, you know, business, politics, Web3 and tech. And so, you know, boobs out, brain out. I'll go out on that note. And I hope that, Niko, you have a really beautiful holiday. We'll definitely, I'll see you
too.
After the holiday. And like I said, I'm so honored to be your Mimosa Monday guest today.
It was a great conversation.
Such a
great
blast.
conversation. And y'all go check out. I was on Taylor's show the other day. She just dropped it on Friday. So go check out her YouTube page. You can see our conversation that we had there.
What he said.
Yeah. I'll go ahead. You can go ahead and pop up out of here. I'm gonna talk to these people for a little bit longer.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Thank you guys. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Niko. So fun as always. You're the best.
Yeah, hands off of Africa. Say that shit again. Man, I did this deep dive into Thomas. So hold on, I gotta look up his name. I want to pronounce it wrong. Thomas, I think it's Sankron or Sankron. For the former Prime Minister of Burkina Faso. Sankara. There you go. Thomas Sankara. He's a former Prime Minister of Burkina Faso. So like I ended up seeing a random post on IG the other day that made me like do a deep dive into his history, because Burkina Faso is a very interesting country, especially because everything they're dealing with right now. They just recently overthrew the French government. The French puppet government. And they've been holding it down. Like, and this is a country that does not have a lot of resources. So I saw or read about Thomas Sankara, who was the prime minister from 83 to 87. And this dude was the guy who was partially responsible for changing the name from Upper Volta, is what Burkina Faso used to be, to Burkina Faso as we know it today, which means the uncorruptible people, basically. And this dude was so like about it, dog. First of all, when his people take the government for him, they did it while he was in jail. This motherfucker had a base that was so loyal to him that they overthrew the government while the French puppet government was in power and put him in jail. That is, bro, you know what kind of movement you had to have. The work that he did, probably like the real work that caused Burkina Faso to achieve the level of success that it did in the 4 years before he was assassinated. Yes, he was assassinated, of course. But he probably started that work well before he ever became prime minister. This man took all the air conditioners out of the government offices because he said people of Burkina Faso can't have air conditioning in their home. Therefore, we shouldn't have air conditioning. His salary was $450. He lowered his salary to $450. He sold all the government cars, all the government luxury cars, anything luxurious from the government. He sold that shit, bro. These are the French government worked alongside his opposition, and they plotted his assassination after 4 years because he achieved so much that they were like, we can't allow this. And then whenever the Burkina Faso people actually got their government back from the French government, they actually were able to prosecute because it was they said that we cannot move on until we have a national reconciliation. In other words, we can't pretend like these motherfuckers didn't pull up on behalf of the French government and overthrow Thomas Sankara against the will of the people. So they actually were able to prosecute almost everybody who was involved in the assassination of Sankara. Not only the assassination of Sankara, but they killed everybody in the room except for one. So they killed all his leadership so there was nobody to take his place. Bruh. Like when you find out like you're of these governments, these Western governments, France, US, basically NATO powers, are so dedicated to killing the leaders, the best that we could have possibly, like, I mean, these type, we assume the worst of humanity sometimes because we see these horrible leaders that get elevated, these horrible people that get elevated, and there's like this assumption that like you got to be corrupt to be elevated, you got to be corrupt to having a level of success, to having a level of influence, to get people to get behind you. And it's like the history is actually showing us the opposite. It's just that those stories don't really get told, because I love learning about stuff like that, and I had no idea who Thomas Sankara was. Granted, I try to give myself grace because, like, yo, it's too hard to learn about everybody that the West has assassinated. It's too fucking hard. Not gonna lie to you, it's really difficult. But Burkina Faso has become more of a conversation lately, and especially their new leader, who's become very popular, not only in Burkina Faso, but really he's an inspiration in Africa. And so I came across this and was like, dog, this dude, he unfortunately he didn't get to live long enough to see himself become a villain, you know, but what he did in those 4 years, it inspired what's happening right now in Burkina Faso. But it just kind of like serves as a reminder, like they keep saying, oh, those African countries are just violent like that. They just don't know how to take care of their money. Bro, he got Burkina Faso off of the International Monetary Fund. He won't take in shit from nobody except for actual allies. He only enter into bilateral agreements that further diversify the economy of Burkina Faso and help them reach their potential from inside and not from influence from outside. Because he said, whoever feeds you controls you. That was one of his famous quotes. So, man, there was another leader that I can't remember what his name was. But there's like, it's like a consistent theme all over Africa. And it just made me even more mad because of how often just you hear people just blaming Africans. Like, bro, they try. And it's like, there's almost, you can make an argument, there's more effort to control them than anybody because of the potential that African nations have. And because of the necessity to set an example and make an example out of anybody who actually is able to successfully overthrow their puppet governments and take their countries back and be successful without the help of the Western governments after. Because that's what was on the table with Burkina Faso. It wasn't just that he had successfully overthrown the puppet government of France. It was a success that he was achieving after the fact. And that's the most dangerous thing, because then that gives people hope. That gives people hope, y'all. That's like, oh shit, if they can do it, and Burkina Faso isn't the biggest country in the world. It's not even close to the biggest country in Africa. But if Burkina Faso can do it, then oh yeah, we can do it too. People get inspired by that. Look into Moringa. Who's Moringa? Betrayed, yeah. Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara, betrayed by Blaise Compaoré. Yep. I don't know if that's right. He was part of his camp. Yep. He was betrayed from the inside, y'all. That's what makes it even worse. So, you gotta watch some people in your circle, dog. It be your own people. It be your own people. Niko, is Russia to blame for the fall of Syria? No, Russia's not to blame for the fall of Syria. Why would Russia be to blame for it? I've seen people kind of going into that direction. I've also seen people blame Syrians for not knowing that they were getting blindsided, as somebody was clearly handed the keys from the inside. Like there was, like my friend Kavork said, he said it wouldn't be hard for the U.S. or Western powers to pay off generals in Syria, given the conditions that people were living in, because of the sanctions that are being used against Syria. Like, I would not. Russia has only been, like, the only reason Syria's been able to fight for so long is because of the help from Russia. Like, why would I then blame them for the fall of Syria? Like, they did everything they could. It's not like Russia didn't try, but like whenever you're your government gets corrupted from the inside, and somebody like fucking lets the enemy in, like opens the door, the front door, like January 6th, like rolls out the red carpet for the people that you want to, you're trying to expel. There's nothing that Putin could do at that point. If anything, my biggest problem is that everybody keeps waiting for fucking Russia to solve their problems. Like, what do you like? Y'all want them to solve every single problem? Like, they got enough of their own problems. They're already trying to deal with the entire Western world, trying to undermine them in every way, form, or fashion. They got every time they try to help. So for example, in Burkina Faso, we all know the United States likes to pay terrorist organizations, so that's what's happening a lot over there. They got U.S. and France and NATO paying off terrorist organizations that showed up conveniently after the government took over, or after the new government took over. And Russia goes to help Burkina Faso because they are aware. Russia goes to help Burkina Faso because Ukraine and their military was found out there training the fucking terrorists. They were found to be training the terrorists and giving them weapons and giving them intel. So Russia went out there because they're like, this is kind of our problem, given everything that's going on. And this goes back to what I said about China the other day, that I said needs to be said. Like, China will be quick to try to turn a profit off of these circumstances in Africa, whether it be Burkina Faso, Niger. But where y'all at when it's time to shed some blood? I'm tired of everybody just expecting Russia to solve all the problems. It's great that they, because it's also in their interest at times to try. They also try not to overextend themselves. But like, damn, bro, where everybody else at? Why aren't y'all like? There should have been a point where, and there could have been, in my opinion, where Iran and Iraq could have went like, nah, we're gonna deal with this problem now, and they could have sent whoever they needed to resolve that issue and helps Syria be secure. And then after it was secure, for the most part, they could have taken a step back. But I feel like everybody is getting to a point now where everybody's kind of like in this is a level of unpredictability, unfortunately, because of Israel and the West's inclination to help them all the time. And because the West is so unpredictable at this moment, there's a fear like everybody has to hunker down. But they're not thinking like Russia is thinking, which is, yeah, we could just do everything that's completely and totally in our self-interest. However, the problem with that is what happens whenever like our self-interests are eventually affected by our us not picking a side, by us sitting on our hands. Because Russia, I feel like right now when it comes to Ukraine, they kind of felt they just saw the result of like, we waited and tried to talk things out. We waited to handle the situation with Ukraine like this, when maybe we should have handled this much sooner. They tried, but look at what happened as a result. Like, they tried to wait it out. So I understand why Russia is not inclined to let shit slide like everybody else. But the problem is no one else wants to get involved. Like, yeah, y'all sending weapons every now and then, y'all but no, we need, if Western imperialism is going to be defeated, it has to be a team effort. It has to be a team effort because the global South, the BRICS powers, if you will, whatever you want to call them, you're doing something that is more difficult than what the empire is doing. The empire is just trying to maintain the status quo and preserve what has already been established. It's always easier to maintain because you're going to use the same playbook. You're going to use the same, you're going to use what works. You already have the dominance of currency, media, world leaders in strategic places, your own resources that you can rely on. What the BRICS community and the multipolar world is trying to create, you're trying to create change that requires more, and it requires a level of execution that maybe the Western powers they can afford to make mistakes. BRICS can't. Anybody involved in them, including China. China thinks this shit's sweet. Okay, y'all keep thinking. Eventually, people are going to have to. These countries are going to have to make decisions again going forward. If things keep going the way that they're looking right now, which is the West is getting its dominance back. And it may not be happening in Africa yet, but it damn sure it's happening in Eastern Europe. It's happening in the Middle East. We don't know how far it's going to go. So, eventually, if it does leak into the Caribbean, at least into the West, or excuse me, into Africa again, which is it's always possible, because y'all know they love assassinating African leaders just on a moment's notice. Like, what's China gonna do? Because now you can see that the West and China, they're actually starting to be a little bit more adversarial. Like, I'm not talking about with words, fuck that. I'm talking about actual, like, China in these chips and lithium and all that stuff. Like, they're doing bans on each other. It's starting to get real. Like, they don't want to help one another because at the end of the day, I feel like they both kind of help each other achieve their purpose. Like, China believes that the U.S. has served its purpose and vice versa. Now they're like, it's about dominance. And they might have two different ways of trying to achieve that dominance. But the U.S. has two ways. They're willing to send people to die, and they're also willing to spend the money and extort people. The U.S., China's only willing to engage economically, but that only works when the United States is in a compromised position militarily or economically or both. But they were in a compromised position. They were ripe for the picking, especially because this is Israel's situation, y'all. This was a time. And what the fuck did everybody do? So, Russia, you gonna save us again? Russia, you gonna do this? Russia. Where y'all at? Like, stop waiting for Putin to solve all y'all problems, right? Like, come on. What am I doing for Noche Buena? Oh, for New Year. We don't even, it's crazy. They call it Réveillon. Oh, I don't know, but I don't even know. We were just talking about that last night. We were going to go to Copacabana, but man, when you got a newborn and a 6-year-old, like, that's just like a hard sell to my my eyes, because they be tired, and then my patience is going to be hard to sell to my patience because it's going to wear thin. Because my newborn's on a weird schedule, just because he's 9 months now. I guess technically not a newborn anymore, but 9 months still, right? He's on a weird schedule. Then my 6-year-old, when it gets to a certain time, he just turns into a 6-year-old. I'm hungry. I'm tired. How long am I gonna be here? Is it 12 o'clock yet? Because he's 6, so he's at that weird age where he has zero concept of time, and everything. His concept of time is completely driven by his stomach. I'm hungry. What time is it? I'm hungry. Is it almost time? I'm hungry. Is it time for bed? Just woke up. It's time to eat some breakfast. That's basically how his clock works. So this year we might just hang out in the crib. Maybe I might buy some fireworks. I might buy some fireworks, something like that. We might just hang out in the crib. I don't know, yo. I don't know. Last year we did go to Copacabana. Well, my wife's still pregnant. That was really fun. They go crazy with the fireworks. Brazil loves fireworks, just in case y'all didn't know. So they went stupid with the fire. Like, the whole sky was looked like daytime. It was so crazy. What are y'all plans for New Year's? Any of y'all traveling? Anybody traveling? What's y'all plans for New Year's and for Christmas? This is the first Christmas, that my kids are both together. We're all here. We're all settled in. Last Christmas, I was still in the process of like transitioning because we were trying to move. So move from an apartment to a house. Like, a lot of crazy shit was going on this year. Everybody's together. It's all good. Really excited, man. It's been a crazy year as far as the world is concerned, but I am very, very thankful and blessed enough to say that even with, my crazy year for the most part is just like crazy dad stuff, which is like, I'll take that shit any day. Like, I love being a dad. So it's like dealing with a 6-year-old and a 9-month-old. That's basically been my whole year, adjusting to it, trying to find a balance. I learned a lot about myself this year. Not just as an adult, as a father, but like I learned more about the way I thought as a kid. I'm like, damn, I used to think like this as a kid. And you kind of have to start questioning, like, why did your kid do stuff that you do? Your reactions to the stuff that they do, how you're helping as a dad, as a husband, and communicating more too, because that which is obviously a whole added layer when Portuguese is your second language in my case, or like third language. So it's taught me a lot. Like I learned to communicate more effectively, and I had to, because Portuguese is my second language. Normally, I feel like in most circumstances, you wouldn't have to work on certain nuances. Well, no, you would have to work on certain nuances, but it would come more naturally to work on certain nuances of communication. But for me, and it would be almost impossible, actually. Most people wouldn't even think to focus on nuances of communication if it's your second language and you are aware that everyone else is aware that it's your second language. However, for me, because it was important for me to be able to communicate with my son and my wife about really important nuanced details in the way that she will accept it without, being offended or, miscommunication, whatever. I had to learn certain aspects of Portuguese that I probably just would have never paid attention to if I wasn't in my dad era. So that's been pretty dope. Everybody else is so like surprised because somebody from a soccer team the soccer team that I helped coach, one of the kids asked me yesterday, he's like, hold up, you're American? Because he heard me like talking to my baby, because I speak to him in English all the time, because it gets his attention quicker because he's not as used to hearing it. So he was running, and my 9-year-old is running around kicking balls and stuff like that now. He basically thinks he's a toddler. So that's a whole different thing. He started dancing yesterday. He started dancing for the first time. That was also fucking crazy. He saw this little girl, probably about 7, 8 months old, sitting in her little car, like little pool car that they be bringing. And this man walks up to her. He grabs her hand. I was like, what is he doing right now? I'm just intrigued. I was gonna stop him, but now I'm intrigued just to see what's gonna happen, because this is at my son's soccer party. And I'm like, yo, what is he doing? He walks up to her, bro. He grabs her hand. He looks her in the eye. Bro starts hitting a little samba. I swear to God, we have never seen him do that. Also, we're like, you're 9 months old. Where'd you learn how to dance? And where'd you get that balance from? Like, you just learned how to walk like a month and a half ago. And he starts hitting us like a smooth little. We're like, what is he flirting with her right now? What is going on? Dog. It was so crazy. Like, and he did it again this morning. It was like he's never done that before. So, but it could be he just watches me dance all the time. So he loves music. So I think that it could be because he sees me dance or listen to music in the house, that he's like probably getting it from me at this point, which is crazy. This is weird watching how your kids just take everything you do. You gotta be careful what you do in front of your kids, guys. I'm telling you, they take everything you do and they will do that shit at least once. So, but one of the kids that I coach asked me yesterday, was like, hold up, you're American? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I've been coaching this kid for probably like 6 months. And he never knew. I was like, yeah, I'm American. Why? Like, well, how come you don't, what? How do you speak Portuguese then? I'm like, what do you mean? I just learned the language. I live in Brazil. No, but like, how do you speak Portuguese? Because it's hard. Portuguese is hard. Basically, that's what everybody says, especially for Americans. And I'm like, well, my kid's Brazilian. What you want me to do? Like, I gotta talk. I gotta be able to communicate with them. And you'd be surprised at what you learn how to do for your family. So, Christian 999, thank you very much for the super chat. Yo, Niko, wishing you happy holidays and nothing but good things for you and your precious family in 2025. Amen, brother. Appreciate you. You too. Stu F. Yes, I am on Rumble. I am. it's a little bit hard for me to access it because I live in Brazil. You know how that goes. But yes, I am on Rumble. Friendly Brilliant. Our government in the USA is definitely terrorist. Yeah, it's the most terroristic government in history. I mean, they be flooding. What's crazy is like if you look at the way that they kind of like go into neighborhoods, flooding with drugs, flooding with weapons, cause terror to justify the police going in. Like, isn't that like the same playbook they use for terrorism overseas, like foreign countries? You give a bunch of people who have nothing to live for, going through the struggling. After you cause the struggling, by the way, so you get a bunch of people who are struggling from circumstances that you caused. You give them weapons and you give them a person to aim them at. You just wait for the chaos and destabilization, and then you send your troops in to resolve the problem that you created so that you can get control of the area. And then, the U.S. literally, y'all know that the U.S. actually literally wrote the book on like Islamic extremism that we know today, right? And like it was written, I think, I want to say the University of Indiana of Pakistan. Like we invented it literally. Did Cuba just have an earthquake? I do not know. Let me see. Oh, Cuba hit by magnitude 5.9 earthquake. Oof. Was there a lot of damage? I didn't know that Cuba got earthquakes. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm also not gonna lie to you guys. One of the beautiful things I love about Brazil, or specifically Rio, we don't have natural disasters. Actually, I want to say that almost none of Brazil has natural disasters. The only natural disaster that we have is like landslides, because unfortunately of the weak foundations that some of the homes are built on in the poor areas. But like actual natural disasters, no, we don't have them. We don't have hurricanes, we don't have earthquakes, we don't have tornadoes, we don't have tidal waves. Yeah, we don't have none of that. And my mom reminded me the other day about my fucking traumatizing experience from my very first hurricane, where everybody assured me it's not that big of a deal. When I was living in Fayetteville, it was Hurricane Fran. I don't know if any of you all remember, or old enough to remember Hurricane Fran. But yeah, I'm thinking like I was rightfully scared. Rightfully so. Everybody told me that it's okay. I was scared in school. I didn't know what a hurricane was at the time, but all the teachers were talking about it. And I'm like, yo, this shit sounds really bad. Everybody's talking about it because they sent us home early. I feel like I think they sent us home early so that people get to where they need to go. Get home. My mom's like, don't worry, it's not that big of a deal. Man, a fucking tree. I'm on a bunk bed. I have my brother's beds at the bottom. I was at the top. A tree falls through the damn roof, guys. Falls through the roof. Almost kills me. I wake up. The tree is right here, guys. I bullshit you not. That's when my mom was like, "Oh, we gotta get up out of here." We went to my friend, because we had other trees in the area. But yeah, a tree. I probably should have died that day. That's like the second or third time I was in a situation that I probably should have died. That tree was right here, guys. I was 6 years old. And everybody told me, dang, you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be scared. Boom. Ever since that day, I had trust issues. Oh, man. Nah, that shit was crazy. That was crazy. So I prefer areas that don't have natural disasters. I was the type of person, even when I lived in Miami, even though Miami doesn't actually tend to experience, it's like a misnomer. I don't know why they actually call it Miami Hurricanes and Miami Hurricanes, because Miami actually doesn't experience hurricanes as much as the rest of of Central Florida, because it's so close to the edge that it's still the buildup. So it gets a bunch of rain, maybe a lot of wind, but the people who get screwed is like Orlando area. They be getting smacked. And it builds up in Miami. So, but even still, yo, if I heard something was coming to Miami, guess what my ass was doing? I was out. I packed up my animals and I was out. I was like, I'll see y'all on the flip side. I did not care. I'm not, I'll take my chances. Well, it might not be that. I'm not even trying to find out. I'll see y'all later. I'm going up north. I should have a painting created with that image with the tree falling on me or almost falling on me. Hell no, I try to forget that shit. My mom brought it up the other day when she was here visiting. For those of you who are curious, my mom visited for the first time, guys. She visited Brazil for the first time. Loved it just like I said she would. She fell in love with Brazil. Oh man. For those of you who don't know, it's a big deal when my mom goes out her comfort zone in Brazil because of the distance. She doesn't like flying. It's just that. And the language was like a big thing for her. She was like always nervous about it. And just being out of her, like being too far away from her apartment, like just always a big thing for her. So, but she made the trip anyway. Which it was dope. We had a little bit more than 2.5 weeks together out here, and she just fell in love with Brazil. Loved it to death. I told her before she even got here, I said, you got about 3-4 days until you start trying to come up with plans in your head about how it's feasible for you to live in Brazil based off of your income in the States. Like you're going to start thinking about storage units, start looking up price. She's like, whatever, I'm not about to do all that. I can't move to Brazil. Like that's unfeasible. And then like about 4 days later, she was over here talking to my brother about it. Like, yeah, man, this is actually really nice out here. I really like it. Then she told me, she's like, if it wasn't for the language thing, I would really consider moving out here. Like maybe the second and last day she was here, I was like, what do you mean? When you live in the country, it's not the same as when you are just visiting, right? Like, yeah, there's a language barrier initially when you move anywhere. Like, I'm like, what do you think that people move to America all the time? They just fucking learn English. Now, granted, English is taught all over the world, like because it's one of the main languages, but there are people who move to Mexico and learn Spanish within a year or some change. Like it's like not like you're moving here buck naked. Like you have me and your kids or your grandkids that they will help you translate while you're figuring out the language. So, but she started to understand my oldest because he speaks broken English, like a little bit, like basic stuff. He understands a lot. And she could understand some of the Portuguese that he was speaking to her in response to things that she would say in English, which was really dope to see because that was like a worry that it was going to be like a huge language barrier. And it was like somewhat at the beginning. But then once again, I just realized that sometimes my son be bullshitting, like he don't understand stuff in English just because he don't want to deal with it. Like he don't want to deal with me rather, or he wants to pretend like he didn't hear something. Like if I tell him to get up and go do something, but I say in English because I don't feel like translating to Portuguese, he'll like sit there. And I'm like, boy, I'll say in Portuguese, like, I know you heard me. And then he'll get up and do what I told him to do in English. But he'll pretend like he didn't understand because kids are emotional terrorists. So yeah, that's what he does. But with grandma, he couldn't do that. And when grandma, he learned like, damn, where she told me to go do this. Like she was like, boy, didn't your dad tell you to go do da. And Lenny or my wife, she was like looking at her like, oh, he doesn't understand you. And I was like, no, watch. And then he gets up and goes to do what she sent him to do in English. And I was like, I told you. I was like, he be lying. He be bullshit. Kids are emotional terrorists, dog. But yeah, it was a really great time, man. It was a really great time. Really, really great time. And my mom got to see both her grandbabies for the first time outside of video call. And it's crazy hearing stories about yourself. Like for those of you, we talked about a little bit when Taylor was on, but when you have a kid and your parents become grandparents, this is my mom's first time being a grandparent, but I'm her oldest. So there's like a whole different dynamic of like my oldest has a baby now. Everything he does, she has a story about how I used to do something like that. And I'm like, why did it take me having a kid for you to tell me stories about me being a baby? Like, it's kind of weird. But my dad actually does the same thing. I guess it's just a parent thing. I guess because your life is going by so fast and you're so busy looking at your kids, like you're dealing with your kids in the moment, that you to some degree almost forget, or it doesn't cross your mind the things that they used to do because you're still watching your kids grow up. But like, for example, I tell y'all, my boy used to stand up and he used to get his damn crib and he used to get on his feet and just shake the shit out of the crib. And we to this day don't know why. I feel like he was training to stand up. That's what I feel like, but that's what he did. And my mom was like, oh yeah, I used to do that. I was like, what? That's so random. Like, you never said that. She was like, oh, I never really had a reason to say it. But yeah, no, you did this exact thing that your son is doing. You did this, and it actually almost broke the crib, which is why it was basically broken by the time my little brother got to it, which was only like 10 months later. She said, I almost broke the crib doing exactly what my son does, which is crazy. Or like when so like he has this habit of if I specifically walk past him and I won't say I don't acknowledge him, but if I don't pick him up or hold him or do something like that, he starts crying immediately. And he'll go, dad, 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 dad. And my dad's like, oh yeah, I used to do that. I was like, what? Nobody told me that. He's like, no, he's like, if I was talking and like if your mom was holding you, but like I was there and I didn't pick you up, you would start crying. I was like, what? That's so crazy. Why does nobody talk about these stories? He's like, oh, I don't know. I guess I didn't think about it. But yeah, your son's a carbon copy of you, except for he's just way smarter than I am. Like he's ahead. Like, I didn't start walking until 9 months, almost 10 months. He started walking like for real at 8 months, but he was already taking steps here and there around 7.5 months. He said his first words faster than I did. I want to say almost 6 months on the day. And then he said more than that since then. He says daddy, mommy. He actually says papai, which is daddy in Portuguese. He says batata, which is potato in Portuguese, or potato like fries in Portuguese, because he loves eating potatoes. Thanks to his grandma, who started feeding his ass from her plate when he was she was so he knows how to say batata. He also knows how to say chato, which is it's kind of a hard word to describe. It can mean various things, but like kind of when somebody's being an asshole, you say it sometimes. Like, and sometimes whenever he's like having a crying fit, he's just doing the most. And he comes downstairs. I'm like, oi chato, which is like, what's up? Like, dickhead, basically. I mean, it's a nicer way to say it, but basically, because it's the way he's being, he gets spoiled. And so he started imitating me, go, oi chato, oi chato. I'm like, now you calling me chato. That's not what I wanted you to do, but all right, sounds good. So he's just like really advanced for his age. He was kicking the ball around yesterday. Like he was so locked in to the soccer field yesterday while we were at my son's end of the year soccer party. And this man would not look away. He's just looking at this ball. And we're like, what are you doing? And like, if I put him on one shoulder, he's like doing this. I put him on the other shoulder, he's like doing this. If I turn around, he's like trying to turn back around and watching these kids play soccer. And I'm like, boy, are you really that like pressed to go over there and play with this ball? We take him over after like some of the kids like left and it was like a little bit chill. This man immediately goes to take the ball from them. Like he just runs and goes to take the ball from them and starts kicking it. And I'm like, I had no idea that you could pick up a ball this big. I had no idea that you could kick the ball. And I had no idea that you could balance yourself as well. What the hell is going on? It's like he was watching them and studying them and then he just picked it up. He's just like, yep, I can do that now. He just starts kicking the ball. What is going on with this kid? Like a robot, like a learning machine. I don't know. It's crazy. But we do got to be careful what we do in front of him now because he picks everything up. My oldest likes to scream randomly at times, like just make random noises. So now I had to get on him about that because now my baby does it. They're the most annoying sounds ever. Yeah, that's so true. Learn lyrics from your favorite foreign songs. I promise anyone will learn a different language. That is so true. Bro, y'all know how many people started understanding Spanish because of Bad Bunny and his little rise of fame? Everybody wanted to speak Spanish. Boy, what? I thought I understood a lot of Spanish until I started listening to Bad Bunny. I'm like, damn, a lot of slang I do not understand. And I started learning more because of it, because everybody was listening to Bad Bunny. So even though I had to like basically get rid of the Spanish, I can still understand it, but I had to stop speaking it to learn Portuguese correctly. So now when I went to Mexico in May, I was speaking in Portuguese. Well, I thought I was speaking in Spanish, but little things I would say in Portuguese, and they were looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, why? I know I said this right. And then I realized like, oh shit, it's the Portuguese. And I couldn't remember like, in every language there's shortcuts to get to where you want to get to. And like there's slang, like acceptable slang. And it's like you just take certain words out, even in English, like because that's the easiest way to say something. Yeah. So once you get to that level of language, like the way that you process things, especially when a language that's so similar, like Spanish with Portuguese, I'm trying to process Spanish. I'm trying to speak Spanish in the way I process Portuguese, which does not work. Because as similar as they are, there are huge differences in the way they communicate. So yeah, it was very, very difficult to speak. I had to speak super slow and I had to think a lot when I was trying to speak Spanish again for the first time, because I had gone out of my way to just take all of it out, all the conjugations, all of the similar words that mean different things, and the pronunciation especially. I had to take all that shit out. And so I can learn Portuguese properly. And understanding it, I probably understand Spanish better than I've ever understood it. But speaking it, worse than I've ever been. And it still comes out in a Portuguese accent if I do speak it right. Christian, I love my Brazilians. Tell your mom it's like Novocaine. Just give it a little time. That's true. That is so true. It didn't even take that long. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer. Right? Usually people have self-reflect. She was nope. She was here for about 3-4 days before she realized, man, I love it here. And also, but people realize that Brazil's way more modernized than what they have been sold. They are a little bit more comfortable. Niko, would you be in favor of your kids moving to the U.S.? Man, that's a very difficult question to answer. The circumstances, largely dependent on circumstances. At this moment in time, hell no. Nope. But if they play sports, if they want, if one of them is getting into a specific field of study that I feel like would be better for them to learn in the U.S., things like that. It depends really on my kids. I am under no circumstances right now in a rush to move back to the U.S. I don't want to move. I like it. I love it here. I'm not trying to move. Their parents or their mom loves it here. Her whole side of the family lives. They wouldn't be able to visit, so we would have to come back and visit them. My family does have the means to visit, so it's a little bit easier. But it's it just depends on what's best for them. Hell, we have to consider the possibility of them living in Europe too, because of here when it comes to soccer and basketball too, but especially soccer, the top teams are coming to Rio and Sao Paulo and maybe Santos. They're coming here and they're taking Brazilian kids super young that show potential. So if you're playing for one of the major academies out here, like Flamengo, Sao Paulo, Botafogo, which is owned by an American, there's a very good chance actually that your kid might get picked up by Real Madrid or Barcelona or Atletico Madrid's academy. So we had to actually mull over because we already have a kid. I have a kid on my soccer team who might be moving to Spain because of that, actually. So he's just 14 or 15 years old. So we have to mull over the possibility of moving to Europe, which is a whole different thing. I was like, I don't know, if my kid has to go to Europe, I'm not letting my kid move to a foreign country by themselves. That's not happening. In the process for that is different for me because I'm American. it might be different from my baby, who would not be a baby at that time, but it would be different for my baby because we're both going to have American citizenships. But it might be different for my oldest son. It might not be the same process. So it's a whole different thing. There's a lot of circumstances that would affect that. But it's just as far as the way that the world is looking right now, I don't want my kids to be raised in this toxicity of United States culture. I don't want the instability of U.S. culture or U.S. economy to affect my family. I don't want to be overcommitted because if I move back to the U.S., then I have to go back to I tell you, I'm the oldest sibling, y'all. I'm the oldest sibling of 7 technically, but one we don't really talk to that much. But I'm the oldest sibling on both sides, my mom and my dad's side. I'm the oldest grandson, and I'm the oldest cousin, and both of my parents were the oldest in their respective side of their respective siblings. So like whenever I'm there, everything all of a sudden falls back on, and I'm the one with the job that like it had a little bit more flexible free time. So that everybody kind of like throws responsibility on Niko. So I had to consider all that, right? There's a lot that would go into me making that decision. So anything that I feel like will negatively or positively impact my kids will affect whether or not I'm going to move. So, but as of right now, I don't anticipate us even considering moving to the US for at least 5 or 6 years. Like, and if my mom decides that, hey, I'm going to move to Brazil, and I'm not going to move back to the US, I'm going to stay here with my mom. Or she decides she wants to stay 6 months there and 6 months here. You know, all those things play a huge role because I have to, being the oldest, you got to think about things like that. My mom is only 55, but you know, she's getting around that age to start planning for retirement. And because she's in a rare circumstance where her son will have a citizenship and residency, at least a residency, but probably a citizenship by the time she retires. And she has a grandson who does have citizenship, just two actually, that do have citizenship here. She can actually get her residency here really easily and live a comfortable life in retirement. And for a person who has diabetes, being here, where diabetes medication is $15, $20, not even $20, it's like $20, $25, hey ice. So it's like a big difference in the quality of life for her. And if she gets a quality of life for her golden years that's better here, then that's what I would probably consider doing. So it's a lot of factors that play a role in there. But it's stuff that you gotta think about, guys. Like I always tell people, especially right now, like y'all gotta think about other options. I don't know how feasible it is to thrive in the U.S. without being in certain very specific industries. Like, bro, I know people who are even in the finance industry who do well for themselves. They live in Sao Paulo now. They moved to Brazil. They lived in New York. They lived in Austin, and then they moved to Sao Paulo. Because the finance industry, they're like, it's just as good. The finance industry and what they do is just as good here, but they also still earn in dollars too because of what they do. So like, and they're like, but the quality of life that they have, because they were working in finance and they were like still having a roommate because it was just expensive as shit to live out there. I know people have moved to El Salvador because they're in finance, but they're doing both crypto and regular finance. So I know some people move to Mexico, but there are a lot of people that are they're out. They're like, I know somebody who is a Brazilian who's lived in England which is crazy to talk to. It was bizarre because it's my friend's friend, my neighbor and my friend's friend who's lived in England for 22 years or something like that. He's Brazilian. And it's so crazy because I would talk to him and I'm used to people when they say like, oh, I speak a little bit of English. You know, usually I'm like, I'm not going to put you into some comfortable situation where you have to try to communicate with me and we don't understand each other. So I'm just going to speak Portuguese. And so then like I was talking to him in Portuguese and kind of like introducing myself. And then I realized, I'm like, hold on, you said you lived in England for 22 years? He's like, yeah. I was like, hold up, you speak English then? He's like, yeah, I speak English. I'm like, oh shit, you actually speak English. It's crazy. It's the same way people act whenever I speak Portuguese. I'm like, well, you've been somewhere for 22 years. You'd expect that, right? But yeah, like it was dope actually being able to talk to somebody who's been in a similar situation, because he moved to England on a dime and taught Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there and actually became very successful. But like it was a hard transition for him at first. But he has a wife from England and he taught his wife Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. Unfortunately, one of his kids doesn't speak Portuguese and the other does. The youngest speaks it and the oldest does not, because he was so focused at the time on trying to learn English and master English, he didn't even think about speaking Portuguese. So when his oldest comes to visit, I think this is the second time that she's come to visit Brazil, or this most recent time was, she can barely understand anybody, but the youngest can, because he made such a point, because the first time they visited, the oldest didn't understand anything. He's like, shit, I probably should have been speaking Portuguese. So, but it's funny because the wife does understand and she's got a whole British accent. Y'all, that's just crazy. But y'all gotta start coming up with backup plans for sure. And if you have the ability to, try to come up with something for your family too. Like it's real out here, guys. You gotta have options. Hell yeah, true. The Brazilians dominate in soccer, or futebol. They pronounce it futebol, which is crazy. They just add E to everything. That's already a word. But my family is from next door, Colombia, but my pops is a proud Black Afro-Colombian. Oh, bro, Colombian and Brazilians are like basically cousins, like, or at least the Black and indigenous Colombians and Brazilians. They're like, and to some degree, Argentina. Less now than it used to be, but Venezuelans too. Venezuelans and Brazilians are like that. A lot of Venezuelans, or there's a lot of Brazilian Venezuelans that you would never know, like their first language is Spanish, because like they moved here at such a young age, and a lot of mestizo Venezuelans look like Brazilians. And it's also, Brazilian culture is actually super popular in South America. So like it's kind of like how American culture is super popular in the US. Like everybody wants to go to Miami. Well, in South America, everybody wants to go to Rio. That's what they're trying to spend their spring break. That's what they're trying to spend their summer break. Chile, same thing. Chile, I met so many Chileans out here. I met more. I've met like 3 before I moved to Rio. I met like 2 Chileans in my entire life, and they were like siblings, I think. Yeah, it was brother and sister. It was weird. They were rare for the Hispanic community in North Carolina at the time, or in Fayetteville. So when I moved out here, I met a shitload of Chileans, because all of them be out here for spring break, and for like they look for jobs out here. They just love Brazilian culture, yo. Brazil's culture is extremely popular in South America, way more than I would have ever thought it was. Like, and they all want to learn Portuguese, but it's also super, it's like hard for them, you know what I'm saying? Like, because of oh man, this is so similar, but it's not. Right? Like, but when they need to communicate though, it's actually cool watching them, because they can understand just enough that like the important shit, like they can talk about. So, but that's dope though. That's dope. Take a trip to China for the cure. Hey, look, I told my mom about that. Take a trip to China. Take a trip to China to cure diabetes. I told my mom about that. Is that cure type, or is it like any diabetes? That I'll be curious to know about that. Niko, how might we explain to people that you cannot push the Democrats left if we don't have your level of political education? By the way, happy upcoming birthday. I'm late December baby as well. Tracy, that's a really good question, and thank you very much. Oh, fellow Capricorn in the building, and shout out to Tracy. Capricorn season is almost actually Capricorn season is here. I'm messed up. Dog, that's crazy. I can't believe I missed the opening of Capricorn season. That's such a Capricorn thing to do. If I was a Virgo, I'd be celebrating 30 damn days out the month. But you know, Capricorn, we just be minding our own business and doing things to make people successful. That's what we do. But how do we? So, man, that's point out the hypocrisies. Point out the hypocrisy. You can point out recent history. The best way to do it, though, is to learn. The more knowledge you have, the more power you have to influence conversations and the people in your life, because you're coming from a place where you're prepared for every rebuttal they might give you. You get what I'm saying? Like, so I can have conversations with anybody nowadays. People who disagree with me, people who agree with me, people who agree with me on specific things, because I'm not going to enter a conversation. Well, one, if I don't know, I just say I don't know. But because I know that I'm going to have a certain conversation with certain type of people, I just learn as much as I can, and so that I'm always prepared. And if I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer. I just concede the point. I'm like, okay, well, we can just accept that for what it is until I know better. But I'm like, you have that conversation more and more. And if anything, I would welcome the people who if you're trying to like build up your knowledge, the people who argue with you and try to make the point that you can rebuild the Democratic Party or push them to the left, listen to them. Listen to every argument they make. And then go do your research. Welcome their arguments, because that will help you the next time you engage with somebody. So you just got to keep taking the L until you tighten up your argument. You got to refine it, and then eventually you just get to a point where it's like there's not going to be a conversation that they can have with you where the conclusion isn't obvious. And then you'll know if that person is actually interested in change, because they'll either be like, damn, you're right, or they will get mad at you. They'll get pissed. Somali born, raised in England, great Brazilian community in London, bro. Oh man, that is so true. There's a huge Brazilian community in England. I didn't even know that until recently. There's also a huge English community here in Brazil, which I also didn't know until recently, which is like super bizarre, because I just would think that I would have assumed, I feel like naturally and rightfully, that Portuguese would be harder for an English speaker than an American English speaker. I don't know why. I do know why. Because Brazilian Portuguese is very colloquial. It is the most urban version of Portuguese that you could possibly speak, as my white brothers and sisters might say. It is the most like carioca, por example. Carioca, for example, which is the dialect of Portuguese that they speak in Rio, and is basically how people from Rio refer to themselves. Like, just their dialect alone, ladies and gentlemen, is its own thing. There are people from most parts of Brazil that can't understand people from Rio. If somebody from Rio didn't want them to understand them, it's like a New Yorker from the Bronx if they didn't want somebody from the South to understand them, or somebody from the South if they're just talking to anybody else in the country and they don't understand them. Like, it's like that. So I would assume that it would be harder for people from England to understand Portuguese and learn it, but they actually move here pretty frequently and they pick it up pretty fast, from what I know, from what I've seen so far. But I don't know if that's just... So I've only met maybe two people from England that learned. One of them didn't really speak it that well. The other one did speak it pretty well. But I also don't know if that's just a situational thing, or if like that's the norm. I see it on Instagram all the time, but those English people who move here usually get married to a Brazilian, but that Brazilian isn't from Rio, or they're learning English, so it's a whole different dynamic. But like, there are a couple out there that I've seen where they pick it up, they speak it, they have like a kind of a unique accent, but they speak it pretty fluently, and it's difficult to become fluent in Portuguese, y'all. It's not easy. It's to get the basics, yeah, but like to speak in a level of fluidity that they can actually understand you, like in a conversation, is very like, bro. It's when I first started speaking Portuguese in Rio, it was hard to talk to the Uber driver, and it wasn't like I was saying something wrong. It was like maybe the way I pronounced it or phrased something. Like, not that I phrased something wrong. It's just like they don't phrase it like that here, or the level of education of the Uber driver isn't like, he's not articulate. And so if I phrase something in a way that sounds unfamiliar to him, he's like, what? Like, why are you saying it like that? Looking at me crazy. And I'm thinking I said something wrong. And my wife was like, no, you're not saying it wrong. It's just that technically Like we would normally say it like this. And maybe somebody of like who's just verbose would say it the way you said it, but you didn't say anything wrong. I was like, why the hell he acting like he don't understand me? He said, oh, because he probably can't read. And then I found out, and I thought she was being an asshole. And then I found out that the majority of Brazilians don't read, which is why WhatsApp voice. So they're the most voice messages in WhatsApp are sent in Brazil, like in the whole world. And it's like not even close because there's a huge portion of the population that can't read, unfortunately. So they're resolving that, or they're reconciling that. But yeah, so that's why it's like, and it's kind of like that with like slang and ebonics in the US. Like, depending if you're talking to somebody who's never known anything but slang, if you speak in a certain way, like, or pronounce words in a certain way, like they're not used to, they will look at you crazy too, and vice versa. China found cures for type 1 and type 2 diabetes. What? I'm not even surprised by that. Proper Portuguese versus street Portuguese. Yep. Except for in Rio, it's damn near the same thing. That's the only Portuguese they know. Like there's a educational gap, unfortunately. Like I can communicate far easier with like my friends. I have a friend that's a lawyer. I have a friend that's been college educated. She's like a degree in psychology. I have friends that own businesses. It's way easier to communicate with them, especially like the beginning when I first moved here, than it is to communicate with like my friends from like the favelas across the street or whatever. Now it's not as bad. It's I learned a lot from playing soccer. Basically, I learned a lot of slang. I learned a lot of different accents, and I'm like, oh, I thought you were saying this whole time. Like you just show up one day and you're like, oh, I understand you now. I get what the fuck you're saying. We got a history with the Portuguese. Not a big fan. No offense, brother. I prefer Brazilians. Yeah, the Portuguese Empire has a lot of problems, like with African and Brazil itself. So I can understand if you're Somali and you got a history with Portuguese. Brazilians have issues with Portuguese. So they don't even, they actually take a lot of the words in Portuguese and they just make them the significance of the word, like the meaning of the word, just the total ironic opposite. Like, oh man, I wish I could remember what word it is. It's basically a word for like saint, like a girl who doesn't do anything. A good girl in Portuguese is like a thought in Brazilian Portuguese. Like the same word means like a thought. I'm like, why did y'all do that? She was like, I don't know. I guess to be ironic because it's like making fun of Portuguese from Portugal. They do it like almost like on purpose. It's like, yeah, it's our shit now. So I am about to get up out of here. I got some stuff I need to go take care of. Christmas Eve is tomorrow, which is basically Christmas for Brazilians. And with that being said, y'all, make sure y'all like this video. Make sure y'all share. Appreciate y'all stopping by for this very special Mimosa Monday. Last Mimosa Monday of the year. Not the last AMA though, because like I said, I am going to do I'm going to do a birthday stream. Because I wanted to do one last year and I could not. So I said I was going to do it this year for a little bit. It's on the 27th. I don't remember. The 27th is a Friday. So it's a Friday stream. So we'll have a good time, celebrate, have fun, talk. I got some clips dropping from this last stream that we did. So, politics for all the people who are like, oh man, what? Niko's not talking about politics. I don't know. Are y'all new to, for those who ask, are y'all like new to Mimosa Monday? Because y'all do know, like, Mimosa Monday, we talk about literally everything. I don't know. That's the whole point of Mimosa Monday, because it's a break from normal conversations. We just talk about whatever is fun to talk about at the time. That is what Mimosa Monday is. It's bar conversations. So for those of you who are curious, so we will be talking. We're gonna have some more fun on Friday, actually. So I hope y'all stop by. I might do another stream in between now and then on the 26th, depending on what the news is looking like. But other than that, man, if you don't stop by for the birthday stream, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Go be with your loved ones. send some love and some prayers for those less fortunate than you, who may not have that merry of a Christmas this year, who might be struggling. If you do have the means, try to help somebody, yo. Try to help somebody. Wherever, however they may need it. It might not even be presents. It just could be your presence, you know? Appreciate all the love that y'all be sending, you know, on Instagram. I get your Instagram messages and your Twitter DMs and all that good stuff. I can't always respond. There's a lot, but I just want to tell you all, I do see them. And I do appreciate the messages. I really, really do. They be getting me through the day sometimes, even if I can't respond to them. So much love on that front. If you want to support the show, you can do so by signing up for our Patreon, which the link is actually in the description now. I mean, yeah, if y'all missed that whole thing, look at my last stream. The Patreon link is in the description. You can support going through Patreon, obviously becoming a YouTube channel member. I'm still waiting. You know, I'm still waiting to hit 20 members on YouTube. That's the reason I haven't done my exclusive stream for y'all yet. Still waiting. I'm like holding out strong for y'all. So when we hit 20 YouTube premium members, I'm gonna do y'all YouTube exclusive stream, or member stream. Excuse me. You can also, well, yeah, basically Patreon, become a Rockfin premium subscriber. You can also, like I just said, support us on YouTube and super chats, which y'all have already been doing so graciously. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.